Chapter 1562. The reputation of the Chaos Royal Clan as one of the top 10 clans was useful at times. But sometimes it might not be, especially in front of a third-step primordial chaos sacred god. There were many experts in the Chaos Sea, but a third-step primordial chaos sacred god was rare even in the billions of world. He was an overlord that couldn't be offended. He suppressed the fear in his heart. "Your Majesty, there should be a basis for cooperation between us," he said solemnly. "You and I have a common enemy now." The Apocalypse Lord sized up the Chaos Royal Clan, and his eyes flickered with a trace of ridicule. "Cooperation? With your status as a Chaos Royal Clan member? If that's the case, I'm afraid you can only stay as a tonic today." The Apocalypse Lord looked at the Chaos Royal Clan member fiercely. Although the Chaos Royal Clan was unusually strong, they were also treasures. They were born from the chaos and were nurtured from the chaos energy. With a little refinement, they could nurture an extremely powerful chaos-unique treasure. However, the Chaos Royal Clan had always been strong and rare. Seeing the Apocalypse Lord's ferocious and greedy eyes, Pan Lin was furious, but his expression didn't change as he raised his head. "My Chaos Royal Clan has a secret technique that can make the 33 skies self-destruct." Pan Lin's eyes flickered with a trace of a cold smile. "I believe that after losing the Spirit Sea, the primordial Master God will no longer be a match for your Majesty." "Oh? The Chaos Royal Clan has such a technique?" The Apocalypse Lord's eyes lit up. Pan Lin snickered. The Chaos Royal Clan was one of the top 10 clans in the Chaos Sea. They had conquered countless worlds and were known as the Sky-Splitting Clan. How could they not have some foundation? Destroying the 33 skies was just a small trick. In the Spirit Sea, Qin Feng was inhaling and exhaling the jade-like origin from the Spirit Sea. Standing on the Chaos World Tree, the gentle origin from the Spirit Sea slowly poured into his body from the trunk under his feet, repairing the damage caused by the tremendous power vibration and nourishing his origin. Although he had used the power of the Spirit Sea's heavenly Tao wheel to circulate the origin energy of the Spirit Sea, he had severely damaged the fleet of the Western Dragon God system and even broke the seal of the Chaos Royal Clan. Qin Feng had paid a price. However, this price was nothing compared to the losses suffered by the Western Dragon God system. His expression changed slightly. He pondered for a moment and then waved his sleeve. The space-time above the Chaos World Tree rippled like water. Gradually, 4 beams of light silently appeared above the Chaos World Tree. The 4 huge light balls were like 4 huge suns. Rich rules ripples radiated into the Spirit Sea, causing some miraculous changes. 4 enormous connate rules materialized on the Chaos World Tree and morphed into chains. They absorbed the power of the 4 light balls and materialized into reality. This was the origin of the last 4 experts of the Chaos Noble clans who had been killed. Their true spirits had been completely suppressed by the origin of their Spirit Seas. His powerful divine body and holy God's Godhead were also inside these 4 giant suns. The manifestation of the sacred God's laws. Among the 4 16th-level Chaos Nobles, 2 were acquired holy gods and 2 were innate holy god. The acquired sacred gods were respectively a sacred god of fire and a sacred god of thunder. As for the 2 innate holy gods, one of them was a powerful holy god born from the laws of innate power. He was also a peerless holy god that attained his Tao through Genesis. The other was the innate Tai Chi holy god, a powerful holy god born from the laws of innate Tai Chi. There is a glimmer of joy in Qin Feng's eyes, especially when he looked at the 2 innate rules. The laws of innate power and Spirit Sea had been born, but the innate Tai Chi laws could be absorbed and become the 7th innate rule. With the birth of the 7th innate rule, the Spirit Sea's defense would be greatly enhanced. This was great news for many experts in the Spirit Sea. With an additional innate rule, there would be an extra spot for an innate holy god. With the Spirit Sea evolving further, Some of its power would also be fed back to Qin Feng, and Qin Feng's strength would also increase. Qin Feng's eyes flashed. Killing the holy gods was too beneficial for the Spirit Sea. If it wasn't for the Doomsday Lord being outside, he would have killed his way out and captured the remaining holy gods of the Western Dragon God system. The innate holy gods were like human-shaped law seeds. However, in Qin Feng's eyes, they were still useful. Qin Feng's eyes fell on the 4 huge suns. The 4 Chaos Noble Race experts were only suppressed by the Spirit Sea bullets, but they weren't dead yet. He was rather interested in the Chaos Noble Race, especially since they were one of the 10 great races in the Chaos. They would definitely have some powerful divine arts, secret arts, and cultivation technique. Qin Feng's eyes fell on the weakest one, the fire-attributed holy god. With a wave of his sleeve, an invisible force froze the huge sun in place. A ball of incomparably dark, abyss-like black light appeared above his palm. Within the ball of light, there seemed to be the dark thoughts of billions of living beings, turning into countless evil spirits that were even more terrifying than evil spirits. Primitive Demon Heart Scripture. This ball of black light contained the ultimate secrets of the heavenly demon. The Primeval Demon Heart Sutra was a super-secret art related to the law of the soul. The law of the soul was a type of postnatal law. To the current Qin Feng, this kind of secret technique under the postnatal rules was already considered useless. Although it was of little value, it was undeniable that the Primeval Demon Heart Sutra had many unique abilities. In particular, it had the ability to control the minds of living beings and influence the soul. Even with Qin Feng's cultivation base, he couldn't help but be amazed that he was able to create such a secret art back then. There was also the ability to parasitize souls. The seed of the heart demon was compatible with the evil thoughts of living beings. As long as evil thoughts existed in the endless chaos, they would be immortal. This was a rather heaven-defying ability. However, the Primeval Demon Heart Sutra still had huge limitations. If he could condense the innate spiritual law, he could be considered to have truly walked the path of the primeval demon heart. The innate spiritual law was one of the innate laws that extended from the postnatal law of the soul. The innate spiritual law contained the supreme mysteries of all living beings' spirituality. This innate law was rather rare. Qin Feng had experienced several huge 33 heavens upper realms, but only the Eldritch world had this innate law. Qin Feng looked at the ball of black light. He didn't need to upgrade the Primeval Demon Heart Sutra now. He only needed to borrow its strange ability to play with the mind. I hope there's something useful in the memories of these 4 guys. Don't disappoint me. Chapter 1563. Emperor Shi's Void Great Cosmos. This void great cosmos floated in a vast expanse of chaotic clouds in the endless void. The endless void was extremely vast, and most of it was made up of chaotic clouds. The chaotic clouds formed a vast expanse of chaotic cloud corridors that stretched endlessly. It was like a ghost going around a wall. Some wandering chaos demon gods shuttled through the chaotic clouds. If they accidentally entered the chaotic cloud corridors, they would easily lose their way and not be able to find their original world. Although the worlds were huge, in reality, they were extremely hidden in the chaotic cloud corridors. Just like the bricks on the cloud corridors, they were difficult to distinguish. Only by knowing the coordinates of the worlds could one truly find the existence of the world. The Spirit Sea had given birth to many powerful existences. There were even unparalleled experts like the Master of Primordial Chaos, who were famous in the chaos. Hence, the coordinates were known by many experts in the chaos. Emperor Shi's Void Great Cosmos was one of the 33 upper realms. This place was much more hidden than the Spirit Sea. This 33 upper realms was one of the upper realms that had advanced in the previous era. Fortunately, before it had advanced, the immemorial Emperor Shi, who had just left the era, discovered it. He sensed the potential of this 33 upper realms and successfully occupied it. The immemorial emperor Shi was the second immemorial emperor after the immemorial Sui sovereign. After taking over the throne of the immemorial Sui sovereign, he led the immemorial human ancestor race to rise from the tens of thousands of races and pushed the immemorial human ancestor race to the position of the world's main characters. He established the glorious reign of the immemorial human ancestor race for nearly an era. For an entire era, many innate divine race born from the immemorial era were suppressed to the point where they could not raise their head. They were beaten until they were forced to retreat. From the 9 great divine lands, to the 3,000 spirit regions, to the 5 seas, the innate divine race was driven to barren lands step by step. They hid in the mountains, underground, or deep in the sea. At that time, the experts of the immemorial human ancestor race either stood high in the sky or stepped on the ground to establish their own divine nations. They lived in the mortal world and established their own divine dynasties. They dominated the universe and were invincible. The immemorial emperor Shi perfected the laws of heaven and earth and established the order of heaven and earth. Hence, the immemorial emperor Shi had the reputation of being the master of order. When the immemorial emperor Shi's cultivation had reached the pinnacle and was about to reach the greater thousand-world realm, he could not advance any further. That was why he led the many powerful beings of the forefather tribe to ascend. They left the spirit sea and searched for the opportunity to ascend to the greater thousand-world realm. Immemorial emperor Shi wasn't willing to enter the origin god realm. Although many powerful ancient existences in the origin god realm had extended an olive branch to him, they had all been rejected by the ancient emperor Shi. After wandering in the chaos for almost a month, the Sui sovereign celestial branch chased after a chaos-ferocious beast and luckily found the Emperor Shi continent hidden in the chaos turbulence. It was precisely because Emperor Shi's divine branch was able to monopolize the 33 upper realms that it started to expand like a balloon in a short period of time. It became a famous divine branch in the chaos. Together with the Sui sovereign celestial system, the East Baron celestial system, the East Pole celestial system, the Sky Monster celestial system, and the Saint Martial celestial system, they became the 6 great celestial systems in this region. Oh, the East Pole divine system had already been destroyed, and the whereabouts of the East Pole divine god was unknown. It should be called one of the 5 great divine systems. At this moment, on the imperial continent of Emperor Shi, in the huge divine system, the imperial palace of the heavenly emperor stood tall and majestic. Gods stood in great numbers. In the center, Emperor Shi's high seat and the central divine throne were 6 sacred gods. The gods were spread out, and the huge divine system's atmosphere gathered together, surging with majesty. The divine positions were arranged in rows according to their strength. From lowest to highest, they were the sacred god of heavenly thunder, sacred god of howling wind, sacred god of ice, sacred god of myriad mountains, innate sacred god of 5 elements, and innate sacred god of Taishu. Emperor Shi, should our Emperor Shi divine branch send someone to visit the master god of the spirit sea divine branch? The sacred god of myriad mountains looked at Emperor Shi on the divine throne. After all, the primeval sacred god has broken through to the 17th level. According to the old rules, the surrounding divine systems should send someone to congratulate him. On the central divine throne, Emperor Shi was expressionless. I don't think there's a need. His Majesty is sitting in the spirit sea. Look at how majestic he is. He has swallowed up all of our Emperor Shi sect's savings over several generations. Why would he need our divine systems to congratulate him? The sacred god of howling wind's expression was gloomy. Many of the experts present had ugly expressions. The spirit sea was the mother region of many experts in Emperor Shi divine branch. The Emperor Shi sect in the spirit sea was one of the more important sects that Emperor Shi divine branch had set up in the universe. The Emperor Shi sect in the Spirit Sea had provided countless experts for Emperor Shi divine branch for several generations. Among them were two sacred gods. The sacred gods of the five elements and sacred god of myriad mountains were born in the Spirit Sea. The sacred gods of the five elements and sacred god of myriad mountains were famous experts in the primordial age. There were also many god emperors, ancestral gods, and many quasi-world level experts present. They came from the various eras of the Spirit Sea. It could be said that the Spirit Sea was one of the more important sects that Emperor Shi divine branch had set up in the universe. The primeval sacred god had sealed off the Spirit Sea and dominated it. Although he had proven his strength with his absolute combat power, many experts in Emperor Shi divine branch were in awe of him. At the same time, they also felt a deep sense of alienation. We should go. This is etiquette. If we don't send someone, people will look down on our Emperor Shi divine branch. Sacred God Ice glanced at Sacred God Howling Wind and said indifferently, "Ice, are you saying that I don't know etiquette?" Sacred God Howling Wind's expression darkened. He stared coldly at the holy god of ice. He was born in one of the public 33 upper realms, while the holy god of ice was born in another greater thousand world. The two of them had many conflicts over the benefits of some god systems over the years. Silence. The sacred god of the five elements looked over with a terrifying and dignified aura. Seeing this, Sacred God Ice and Sacred God Howling Wind fell silent. Not only was this sacred god of the five elements stronger than the two of them, but his cultivation was also far above theirs. He was the second sacred god in Emperor Shi divine branch, second only to Emperor Shi. He was a powerful sacred god from the previous era. Now, he had reached the pinnacle of the 16th level and was only half a step away from breaking through. He was the one most likely to break through to the 17th level in the divine branch. Kong Ling, what do you think? On the divine throne, Emperor Shi opened his eyes. His deep gaze flickered with sparkling and translucent light. He looked at the sacred god of the five elements with a hint of indifference. The sacred god of the five elements, Kong Ling, walked out from the crowd of experts and bowed slightly toward Emperor Shi on the divine throne. Your Majesty, I think that it is traditional for the 16th level to send people to congratulate a 16th level expert breaking through to the 17th level. Our Emperor Shi divine branch should send people. As soon as he finished speaking, he changed the topic. He raised his head and looked at Emperor Shi. A five-colored divine light flashed in his eyes. But not now. Chapter 1564. Now that the Spirit Sea has been targeted by the enraged Western Dragon God System and the Chaos Marquises, it's a huge whirlpool. We can't get involved. Sky Demon Great World, Dragon Origin Sea, Dragon Palace. Several level 16 dragon gods were having a discussion. The Mystery Dragon Master glanced at the White Dragon Master's gloomy face. After witnessing Qin Feng defeat the Western Dragon God System and the encirclement of the Chaos Marquises, the White Dragon Master's expression had not been good. No matter what, he is an expert of our Eastern Heavenly Dragon clan. Previously, when the Western Dragon clan divine branch attacked, we looked on with folded arms, and we were already ridiculed by others. This time, if we still do nothing, won't we break off our friendship? The Mystery Dragon Master said slowly. He looked around at the dragon gods, especially the Great Void Dragon Master. He's an expert of the Eastern Dragon race after all. The Void Dragon Master's expression did not change. The Mystery Dragon Master was a little disappointed. This was the so-called behavior of the Eastern Heavenly Dragon clan's superiors. It was truly chilling. Qin Feng was also a peerless genius of the Eastern Dragon race. Although he was a little unsociable, he was even a little wary of the Eastern Dragon race. However, the reason was that the two had not met and had not established a connection. After all, they were from the same race. As long as the Eastern Dragon race could show some sincerity, They would definitely be able to win the favor of this peerless genius. How shocking was a being who had stepped into the second step of Lord level in just 3,000 years. How talented was he? The Mystery Dragon Master was a little disappointed. Although the Eastern Dragon race experts were from the same race, it was more of a union of interests. The top experts of the Eastern Dragon race were each more selfish than the other. They only saw their own interests and fought for their own interests. What race? They were all cannon fodder or sacrificial lambs that could be sacrificed at any time in the fight for power. The Void Dragon Master did not see that the Mystery Dragon Master was starting to lose his mind. He just glanced at everyone. All right, the Purple Jade Dragon Master has his own ideas. You don't have to worry about it. You should worry about the Apocalypse Master. The Apocalypse Master? The expressions of the three Dragon Lords changed slightly. They could vaguely sense that something was wrong. They looked at the Great Void Dragon Lord. The Great Void Dragon Master did not seem to notice the change in the expressions of the three Dragon Lords. His eyes were heavy as he looked beyond the void of the celestial demon Great World. A strange look flashed in his eyes. According to the news from the Purple Jade Dragon Lord, the Apocalypse Lord has already joined forces with the Chaos Nobles. Those two forces have suffered a great loss at the hands of the Primeval Lord God, so they won't take things lying down. The Great Void Dragon Lord's face darkened. If he could teach the Primordial Lord a lesson, the Great Void Dragon Lord would not mind adding fuel to the fire. The Primeval Master God had disrespected the Eastern Heavenly Dragon Tribe's experts and the Dragon Tribe's Paragon just because of his talent. The Great Void Dragon Master had long intended to give him retribution and let him know the immensity of heaven and earth. Without the protection of the Eastern Heavenly Dragon Clan, it would be difficult to move. Celestial Demon Great World, Celestial South Volcano, in the territory of the Phoenix Tribe. You have to be careful. The Apocalypse Master and the experts of the Chaos Nobles have already joined forces. They have been sneakily watching the Celestial Demon Great World, the Divine Martial Great World, and the Emperor Shi Great World. I'm afraid they are plotting something. You have to be careful. The Red Phoenix Lord was sitting on a divine throne formed by huge flaming lava. He was dressed in a fiery red palace robe. There was a hint of holiness and inviolability between his brows. He was dignified and dignified. The Phoenix Tribe's base camp was in the deepest part of the belly of the Celestial South Volcano. Countless terrifying fiery red lava flowed here. Pillars of fiery red lava, formed by the lava, formed beautiful mountain peaks in the interior of the volcano. After the fiery red lava cooled down, some of the leaf fire chi condensed and formed some fiery red fire crystals that looked like fiery light. These fire crystals were scattered all over the lava walls like stars in the sky. It was like a huge fiery red world. It was too beautiful to be taken in at all. In addition, there were many golden fiery parasol trees in the volcano. They grew in the lava and took root in the surging flames. The veins on their leaves glowed faintly with golden light. Phoenixes that had just been born not long ago were playing on the branches of the parasol trees. The gods of the Phoenix clan were gathered at the center, under the largest golden parasol tree. The tree emitted a surging innate spiritual light that blotted out the sky. The flaming divine throne in the center was under the tree. Ancient God Imperial Flame, Ancient God Paluo, and Sacred God Red Flame were the three ancient sacred gods of the Phoenix tribe. Could it be that the Apocalypse Master and the people of the Chaos Nobles have designs on our upper realm? Ancient God Imperial Flame was an imposing ancient sacred god. There was a hint of shock and anger in his eyes. But we have not offended the Western Dragon God system or the Chaos Nobles. With a third step Master God around, no god system could sleep soundly. He also felt an indescribable sullenness. I'm afraid that the Spirit Sea has offended him. He will take his anger out on us and take advantage of us. Ancient God Paluo shook his head. Ancient god Paluo was born in an extremely rare phoenix tribe, the Dark Phoenix tribe. The Phoenix tribe was most skilled at controlling fire. The majority of them comprehended the laws of fire, with a few comprehending the laws of light, wind, and lightning. The Dark Phoenix tribe was also skilled at controlling fire, but the flames they controlled were more inclined toward the laws of soul. Hellfire was known as the nemesis of souls. It was a supreme divine technique related to the laws of soul. The experts of the Phoenix god system were somewhat angry, but they also felt powerless. It was all the fault of the primeval master god of the Spirit Sea god system. If not for this, the Apocalypse Master would not have targeted the upper realms of the 33 heavens like a mad dog. The expressions of the Phoenix gods were unsightly. But the Phoenix god system did not consider what kind of existence the Western Dragon god system was. Savage and tyrannical. Since he had already come to the primal chaos sea, how could he let go of the upper realms of the 33 heavens? If the Spirit Sea had not defeated a portion of the Western Dragon god system's fleets, the upper realms of the 33 heavens would have already been besieged by the Western Dragon god system's fleet. Not every upper realm of the 33 heavens had a powerful defense of more than 600 million layers. Roaming and committing crimes everywhere. This crippled Western Dragon god system has really become a big problem. In the Eastern Wilderness upper realm, in the Divine Court, the Eastern Wilderness Sovereign had a strange expression. The Apocalypse Master had entered the primal chaos sea like a bandit entering a village. The Apocalypse Master could not do anything to the Spirit Sea, but the god systems of various sizes in the surroundings could not withstand his torment. Chapter 1565. The various god systems around the Spirit Sea were in for a bad time. During this period of time, the Eastern Wilderness overgods had received news that some of the god system's subordinate worlds had been forcibly taken away, and some of the smaller god systems' overgods had been caught with some clues about the location of the overgods' spaces. Many god systems were in a constant state of panic. The Eastern Wilderness overgod was not worried about his Eastern Wilderness upper realm. The Eastern Wilderness upper realm had been in existence for almost an era. Its defense would only be stronger than the Spirit Sea, not weaker. If the Apocalypse Master could not do anything to the Spirit Sea, then he would not be able to do anything to the Eastern Wilderness upper realm. Moreover, the Eastern Wilderness god system had been in existence for so long and had many allies. They even had a good relationship with the two third-step primordial chaos holy gods from the origin god world. If the Apocalypse Master dared to take advantage of the Eastern Wilderness god system, he would make sure that the third-step primordial chaos holy god would not be able to bear the consequences. However, the Apocalypse Master and Heavenly King Pan Lin of the primordial chaos noble race were in cahoot. The Eastern Wilderness overgod felt that this was not a simple matter. He was afraid that there was another conspiracy. However, even if there was a conspiracy, it was probably to deal with the Spirit Sea. The Eastern Wilderness overgod's eyes flickered. To him, the Spirit Sea no longer had anything to do with him. He had already repaid the debt of gratitude between the primordial chaos holy god and the Eastern Wilderness god system. The most important thing now was to reach the third step. At this time, in an incomparably secretive group of worlds, the Lord of Doom suppressed the last batch of gods from small divine systems who were trying to escape. He glanced indifferently at this group of worlds. He waved his hand slightly. Behind him, the Wind Master, Fire Master, Agony Dragon Master, and Hatred Dragon Master immediately led a large group of experts from the Western Dragon Master system. Their eyes lit up as they rushed forward like an old traveler who had encountered a naked woman. At the side, Pan Lin was expressionless, but his heart was filled with disdain. After all, he was a native born in a remote place. Ignorant. When his gaze swept past the Apocalypse Master, Pan Lin's heart trembled. A third step, primordial chaos. Holy God was an overlord no matter where he was, even in the center of the primordial chaos sea where experts were as common as clouds. As if sensing Pan Lin's gaze, the Apocalypse Lord's eyes flashed with a trace of gloominess. According to your plan, as long as you push one of the 33 upper realms to fuse with the Spirit Sea, you'll be able to break through the Spirit Sea and obtain an even larger upper realm. But I want to know what you think. Pan Lin's face sank. Pushing the two huge realms of the 33 heavens closer to each other and fusing together was no small matter. In particular, according to the estimation of the supreme will of the Chaos Nobles, there was another huge change in the chaos, which was very likely to cause a chain reaction. However, he definitely wouldn't tell the Apocalypse Lord about this. The Last Day's Master was ferocious and cold. If it wasn't for the Last Day's Master coveting the secret technique in Chen Shi's possession, the Last Day's Master would have probably made a move a long time ago and swallowed Chen Shi whole. If that wasn't the case, he wouldn't have chosen such a method to break through his spiritual sea. Breaching a huge upper realm might not be easy for other large organizations, but for the Marquises of Primordial Chaos known as the Sky-Splitting Clan, it was difficult, but they still had many methods. Pan Lin said, "There aren't many continents we can choose from. The Eastern Wilderness Great World, the Divine Martial Great World, the Emperor Shi Great World, the Sky Demon Great World, or the Origin God Great World." Hearing about the Origin God Great World, the Apocalypse Lord's brows twitched. "You should remove the Origin God Great World first." The Origin God Great World wasn't an ordinary 33 heavens upper realm. It was a high-level upper realm that had existed for many years and contained the 4-9 laws. With just the two of them, wouldn't they become targets if they rashly went there? The Apocalypse Lord glared fiercely at Pan Lin. Pan Lin's heart turned cold. He laughed dryly and didn't dare to talk back. However, he was getting more and more furious. He was an expert of the Marquises of Primordial Chaos, yet he was being forced and threatened by a native. However, he still hurriedly explained. "Your Majesty, Apocalypse, don't misunderstand. Generally speaking, when two realms of the 33 upper realms collide, regardless of whether they devour or fuse, the stronger one will dominate the fusion. Didn't the Primordial Lord God fuse his Master God Space into the Spirit Sea? If the two realms fuse and the other realm dominates, he. Pan Lin laughed sinisterly. The Apocalypse Lord chuckled when he heard this. His eyes that were hidden in the black gas looked at Pan Lin. As expected of one of the top 10 races of Primordial Chaos, such a sinister secret technique can really destroy people without leaving a trace. The Apocalypse Lord's tone was sinister. A pair of eyes stared at Pan Lin, like a gigantic treasure trove, filled with burning greed and cold, killing intent. Pan Lin's face turned gloomy. He could clearly feel the Apocalypse Lord's burning gaze. Pan Lin was certain now. Once the Primordial Lord God was killed, the first thing the Apocalypse Lord would do would be to get rid of him. Once the cunning rabbit was dead, the hound would be cooked. Pan Lin was already regretting it. If he had known this would happen, even if the newly born 33 upper realms might have the precious treasure that the Marquises of Primordial Chaos were looking for, he definitely wouldn't have acted rashly and ended up in the hands of the Apocalypse Lord. He was an expert of the Marquises of Primordial Chaos. How noble was he? He was a top-notch existence among the billions of gods. However, he was ordered around like a servant, a slave. The Apocalypse Lord's pitch-black eyes landed on Pan Lin. No matter how natural Pan Lin's expression was, the trace of resentment in his heart couldn't escape the Apocalypse Lord's eyes. The Apocalypse Lord didn't care. No matter what Pan Lin was thinking, he would definitely die in the end. Find a world that's closer. That way we can save some time. The Apocalypse Lord said indifferently. Pan Lin suppressed the regret and anger in his heart. His expression was respectful. That's the divine martial great world. Pan Lin said with a tinge of regret in his eyes. In fact, Pan Lin was more willing to lure the strongest eastern wilderness great world and sky demon great world over. Above the huge primordial chaos world tree, the billions of beings in the spirit sea and countless experts in spacetime could all see this huge tree that stood in the depths of spacetime. Its trunk seemed to be supporting a huge plane of existence. It had countless branches and lush leaves. Now, a portion of intelligent and powerful beings had already started to entrust their true God kingdoms to this primordial chaos world tree. Some powerful beings discovered that by entrusting their true God kingdoms to the primordial chaos world tree, they seemed to be able to develop more vigorously. The burden they could bear would also be greatly reduced. The ones who discovered this benefit were a portion of the Spirit Sea God System's Spirit Tribe experts. After discovering this benefit, the Spirit Tribe's gods collectively moved their God kingdoms to the primordial chaos world tree. Chapter 1566. The fusion between the Chaos World Tree and the Spirit Sea was almost complete, but it wasn't complete yet. Thus, the number of new branches it could produce was limited. Almost all of the new branches had been taken over by the Ling clan's divine nations. Most of the Ling clan's divine nations leaned toward nature attribute laws, which was a great advantage to the Chaos World Tree. The enormous Chaos World Tree's branches seemed to reach deep into the stars of the multiverse. One could see the indescribably enormous ancient tree from afar in the many divine nations of the multiverse. Complacency and the growth of the World Tree. As the World Tree grew, the celestial court built on the crown of the World Tree rose step by step, as if it had truly entered the core of the Spirit Sea. That wasn't the end of the Chaos World Tree's wonders. Most alluring of all were the strange seeds growing out of the tree's leaves. They were called Chaos World Seeds. Any low-level cultivator would be able to grow a secret realm with great potential and communicate with the Chaos World Tree. Qin Feng had once wanted to find the legendary Chaos World Tree's seed, but he'd failed to do so. Instead, he'd stumbled upon a fragment of the Chaos World Tree's trunk. Now that the Chaos World Tree had been watered by the Spirit Sea's origin, it was far stronger than the legendary Chaos World Tree. Apart from the Chaos World Tree, there was also an enormous purple-gold connate vine. It grew alongside the Chaos World Tree, its branches and leaves waving in the wind. Glowing with a strange light, many Spirit Sea experts opened their divine nations and let in a section of the vine. The vine's leaves glowed with a strange light, containing 7 types of connate Tao rhymes, 7 kinds of heavenly laws, and 7 kinds of rules of heaven and earth. Cultivating under the vine not only allowed one to focus their mind and spirit without fear of external disturbances, but they'd also be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Some Ling clan experts said that the purple gold vine had attained Tao and was a venerated ancestor god. In a great hall at the center of the Ling Shao celestial palace, the over-god space was like an enormous sun radiating gentle light. Although the creator space was on top of the Chaos World Tree, no living being could detect its existence, including the quasi-greater world realm experts of the Linghai Divine Court. In the distance, only the holy god of light on the sun star high above the heavens, the ruler of the underworld, the earthly sovereign in the depths of the underworld, and the rumored concubines of the primeval over-god could find the path to the over-god space. In the master god space there was an enormous greater thousand origin world. That was the original continent that belonged to the creator space. After nearly 90% of its fusion with the Spirit Sea, the primal chaos continent had taken a step further into the Spirit Sea. There were many large and small worlds in the periphery of the creator space, including the purgatory plane owned by Madame of Bones, by Qin. They had all merged into the Spirit Sea, becoming one of the countless planes in the periphery of the Spirit Sea. The 7 great elemental realms had also fused into the Spirit Sea not long ago. They transformed into the 7 great worlds on the Chaos World Tree. The 7 great elemental realms were all suppressed by connate spiritual root. In addition, the 7 great elemental realms were important in the creator space. As long as they were given a world, they would definitely become a greater thousand world. It was worth mentioning that among the 7 great elemental realms, the light elemental realm, the water elemental realm, the wind elemental realm, the earth elemental realm, the fire elemental realm, and the thunder elemental realm rose into the sky. The dark elemental realm carried the sinful ancient tree, endless demons, and the blood sea. It sank into the ground and connected with the roots of the chaos world tree. It faintly penetrated the 18 levels of hell, connecting the blood river and the 18 levels of hell. It was very strange. Everyone knew that the underground queen was the lord of the blood river and hell. When the 7 great elemental realms appeared, powerful beings had discovered their birth and discovered that they would inevitably become a greater thousand world. They had tried to interfere. However, the Lingshao celestial court on the Chaos World Tree had stopped them. No one was allowed to interfere with the 7 great elemental realms. This was the Overgod's Iron Order. The Chaos World Tree was evolving above the Chaos World Tree. Qin Feng didn't stop eroding the true spirits of the 4 holy gods of the Chaos Noble clans. The main hall of the Creator Space. As the former core of the Creator Space, incredible changes had taken place here. The Creator Space's main hall had grown even larger. This palace-like existence seemed to have become a supreme treasure nurtured by the origin. Many new modules had been born as well. At the same time, many modules had been strengthened. Countless numbers flashed in the main hall at the center of the hall, exuding a terrifying aura of authority. Many acquired laws and 7 connate laws manifested in the spirit sea. In the center was a black-robed youth. His long hair draped over his shoulders. His eyes were pitch black and indifferent like stars. In front of him were 4 enormous suns that radiated an inconceivable light of laws. The black-robed youth stretched out a hand. An enormous ball of black light appeared in his hand, transforming into 4 purplish-black chains that circled the 4 enormous law suns like lightning. The purplish-black light bloomed with extreme intensity. However, it slowly faded away. The purplish-black ball of light in the black-robed youth's palm was gradually annihilated, and the 4 purplish-black chains disappeared inch by inch. Qin Feng opened his eyes. A wisp of purplish-black light flashed in his eyes. An eternal radiance flickered, bringing with it traces of purplish-black law changes. A hint of joy could be vaguely seen flickering in his eyes. He had really benefited greatly from the memories of the true spirits of the Chaos Noble clans. There were countless secrets about the center of the Chaos Sea, a portion of the secret techniques of the Chaos Noble clans, and countless rumors. Every piece of information was a priceless treasure. It greatly broadened Qin Feng's horizons and broadened his knowledge. This was extremely beneficial for his advancement to the 18th level. At the same time, what surprised Qin Feng even more was that after the primordial mental demon devoured the holy god evil intent of the 4 generations of Chaos Noble clans, it was tainted with a trace of spiritual laws and had advanced to the quasi-world level. It had unexpectedly cultivated to the primordial fiend god realm, the strongest realm of the demonic Tao. It was only a step away from the demonic Tao's holy god. Qin Feng's gaze fell on the 4 balls of origin. Now, the remaining value of the 4 Chaos Noble clans had been almost squeezed out. The next step was to deal with the 4 balls of origin. The 4 balls of Holy God origin were extremely precious. Chapter 1567. The Saint God Origin Source was one of the most precious treasures in the universe. If any of these 4 origins were to enter a great world, it would be able to easily advance into a great wide world. If it was sent into an ordinary living being's body, it could also turn the person into an innate celestial monarch in the shortest time possible. If it was sent into an innate celestial monarch or ancestor god's body, their chances of achieving Tao would increase by at least 10%. The four Saint God origin source were the Fire origin source, Lightning origin source, Innate Force origin source, and Innate Tai Chi origin source. Good stuff is good stuff, but I have to make good use of it. Qin Feng covered his forehead with his sleeves and sighed softly. The whereabouts of the four Saint God origin source really troubled him. After a moment, his gaze landed on the Fire origin source. Among his concubines, most of them cultivated the ice elemental laws and none of them cultivated the fire elemental laws. As the star phoenix, Feng Yi cultivated the fire elemental laws, but ever since she gained control of the God of Fortune Manor's Great Worlds trading system, she switched to the innate balance law. However, it wasn't that no one could use the Fire Saint God origin source. With a smile, Qin Feng waved his sleeves and a tremendous power pierced through the dimensions and silently entered the little radiant mountain on the DZ mainland through the Chaos World Tree. On the little radiant mountain, spring water gurgled and countless light ancient trees exuded a peaceful aura. Dense saint light intertwined in the void as if there was a clear and sonorous hymn. Not only was the light holy and pure, but there was also an unprecedented phenomenon like the absolute primordial era before the chaos was born. Beside the spring water, a goddess dressed in white was cultivating slowly. She had long silver hair and a noble and cold aura emanated from her. She was an innate deity emperor, and this could be seen from the countless light origin chi that resonated and blended with her in the void, forming a massive innate divine domain. She was surrounded by a circle of dense light energy, which vaguely formed 33 huge light worlds. However, it didn't look like pure light energy as it contained an innate phenomenon. It was the innate Tai Chu power. It was more advanced and primitive than the light energy derived from Ho Tian's law of light. Shi Han used to cultivate the laws of light. However, after the Phoenix Matriarch became the light origin sacred god, one of the two extremes of light and darkness, she became the light origin sacred god. The post-celestial laws of light were no longer viable. Shi Han was also a person with great willpower and courage. She went with the flow and refined her light energy into the innate Tai Chu power. Moreover, he was very lucky to obtain the favor of the origin of the absolute beginning star, one of the 36 main stars of the immemorial era. Qin Feng's gaze seemed to have passed through billions of voids and landed on the goddess of primordium in the little light mountain. She had an aura that Qin Feng was very familiar with, slaughtering heaven and earth, traversing space and time, purifying all things. Radiant God-slaying technique. This Sui sovereign's true heritage included the fire, light, primordial, and destruction laws, and even the innate primordial and innate destruction laws. Xiao Yuchan had already perished. In the end, Xiao Yuchan's efforts were for naught. He had failed to vie for the light origin sacred land with Ancestor Phoenix. If they failed, they would end up like the light ancestor god and the great sun demon emperor. They would become sacrifices for the birth of the light origin sacred land. However, he was still alive. Although he had perished, Qin Feng still remembered that he was the deity king of the Fire Clan's Hall of Light. Thus, he used his skills to preserve a trace of his true spirit. Now, this trace of true spirit had fallen into the reincarnation cycle. It would take a very long time for it to reappear and regain its memories. However, the Sui sovereign's heritage was taken out by Qin Feng and injected into Shi Han's body. If it wasn't for that, it would be impossible for Shi Han to cultivate the radiant god-slaying technique in such a short time. Even if she refined the 12 Sui sovereign heavenly tablets, she still wouldn't be able to regain the innate deity emperor's strength. Across the endless voids, Qin Feng looked at the goddess in white. Once, Qin Feng promised to give him a portion of good fortune. Originally, it was supposed to be the light origin sacred land, the light origin saint god. Unfortunately, with Ancestor Phoenix's submission, Qin Feng couldn't do it by force. Among the 4 chaos origins, there was one that was quite compatible with her. N. Beside the spring, Shere-Han opened her eyes and looked up into the void. In the next moment, an invisible and gentle light enveloped her. Feeling the warm and familiar power, Shere-Han didn't resist. A moment later, Shere-Han opened her eyes again and appeared in a huge square. White mist was hazy, and the rich natural law power flowed in the void like it was real. In the blink of an eye, she traveled billions of miles. The number of people who could achieve such a terrifying ability could be counted on one hand. She looked at the smiling black-robed young man, and a flash of understanding flashed across her eyes. Soon after, her gaze landed on the 4 huge suns in the great hall that looked like a square. Rich origin laws appeared, as if the 4 origin laws had directly descended. She only took one look at the dense origin laws before she immediately used her divine power to protect herself. She didn't want to be distorted by the terrifying origin laws and affect her godhead. Seeing Shere-Han's reaction, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with satisfaction. His divine consort did have an extraordinary will to pursue the Tao. The 4 origin source laws had an indescribable attraction to any powerhouse. It was an instinct, a cultivator's instinct to pursue a higher level of power. Ordinary experts would probably be mesmerized by the majestic and mysterious origin laws just by looking at the 4 origin laws. They wouldn't be able to extricate themselves. The fact that Shere-Han was able to extricate her mind in a single glance showed that her mental state and Tao heart were not inferior to any of the top experts. This could be considered to have passed Qin Feng's test. If his temperament was not sufficient, Qin Feng would definitely not allow him to inherit the strength of the 4 primal chaos marquises. With a wave of his sleeve, an invisible force was released from Qin Feng's hand. In the next moment, an invisible hand grabbed the flame origin. The invisible force quietly sealed the flame origin's brilliance, making it look more like a slowly drifting ball of light. This is? Although the attractive force of the origin laws was sealed, Shere-Han still felt a demonic attraction as she looked at the ball of light that was gradually drifting in front of her. It was as if every cell in her body, and even every inch of her flesh and blood, was trembling and releasing an instinct of hunger. Devour it, devour it. That instinct gave her an intuition that once she devoured the ball of light in front of her, her strength would definitely skyrocket to an unimaginable level. The neighborhood issued an announcement that there will be a blackout from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. today. If the update is a little late, please forgive me. Chapter 1568. Qin Feng looked at Shere-Han and chuckled. This is the origin of a greater world expert. It contains the divinity of the greater world level saint god, as well as the essence of his entire body. The origin essence of a greater world level expert. Shere-Han's pupils constricted when she heard that. Her gaze fell on the void above the square. There were 4 balls of light like this in the Master God's hall. Did that mean? Shere-Han's heart trembled violently. Qin Feng seemed to have seen through the depths of Shere-Han's heart. The ball of Saint God's origin in front of you was left behind by a fire attribute Saint God. It is also the only ball of Saint God's origin that you can absorb. He paused slightly. Although the absolute beginning is not an acquired flame, it can contain an acquired flame origin. Moreover, it is superior to the acquired flame origin. If you absorb it, it can at least increase your chances of attaining the Great Path by more than 10%. More than 10% chance of attaining the Great Path? Shere-Han's beautiful eyes were as clear as water. In the Spirit Sea, there were many quasi-world level experts gradually emerging. However, there were almost none who could claim that they had more than a 10% chance of attaining the Great Path. Even in the Spirit Sea, the Grand Supreme Ancestor God, the Mother of all rivers, and the Dragon Emperor of the East Sea, who were said to have the highest chance of attaining the Great Path, were sitting on huge providence as support. However, the three of them did not dare to pat their chests and say that they had more than a 10% chance of attaining the Great Path. Qin Feng's gaze fell on the ball of flame origin. His 5 fingers curled into a claw and grabbed it in the air. Streaks of invisible purple gas appeared in his palm. The image of billions of beings in the heavens worshipping appeared on his palm. Heavenly Path Divine Seal. After condensing the Dharmakaya of the Wheel of the Heavenly Path of the Spirit Sea, this super-divine spell had been completely solidified. Discord was in a predicament where it could not be used outside the Spirit Sea. Countless mysterious and difficult runes appeared on his palm. They surrounded the flame origin and shrank inch by inch, merging into the flame origin. Qin Feng raised his head and looked at the cold and elegant primordial goddess in the distance. Now, I've sealed this flame essence with the heavenly Tao divine seal art and sent it into your body. You can slowly absorb it and turn it into your own. I guarantee that you'll be able to absorb this flame essence to the greatest extent possible. Qin Feng then pointed his finger, and the fire origin turned into a stream of light and quietly entered Shirhan's body. Shirhan raised her eyebrows and closed her eyes slightly. She could sense that a huge Tai Chu space had been opened in her heart. Inside the space, a ball of fire origin was burning fiercely, and a surge of power was contained within. Occasionally, strands of fire origin would seep into her body, refining her Tai Chu divine power bit by bit and boosting her innate Tai Chu divine emperor godhead. Almost at every moment, her origin was growing silently. It wouldn't take long for her to become an innate celestial monarch. Thank you, Your Majesty. Shirhan opened her eyes. Her posture was graceful, her almond-shaped eyes were bright, and there was a hint of gratefulness in them. Han-er, there is no distinction between you and me. Qin Feng laughed loudly. His figure flashed and appeared beside the goddess. He stretched out an arm and wrapped it around the white-robed goddess's slender waist. The familiar masculine aura was scorching and domineering. Although the goddess was strong, she couldn't help but feel weak in her limbs. Your Majesty! She couldn't help but blush, her eyes were like spring water, and her emotions were surging. My love, we haven't been intimate for a long time. Qin Feng gently nibbled on the white-clothed goddess's earlobe. The goddess's beautiful face blushed. Qin Feng roared with laughter when he saw this, and then he grabbed the goddess's slender legs before his figure instantly flashed and vanished on the spot. A week later, a white light escaped from the Master God's palace in a hurry. His body was like a demon god, his handsome face was sharp, and his eyes were like stars. His black hair cascaded down his back like a waterfall. Qin Feng looked at the escaping goddess with a faint smile on his face. After a whole week of sex, even with her innate celestial emperor body and the recovery of her acquired fire origin, her bones were still numb and she couldn't take it anymore. In a flash, Qin Feng put on his clothes and his expression returned to normal. The occasional indulgence was just for the sake of better cultivation. His gaze landed on the 3 remaining Xing Shen origin of fire in the Master God's palace. The innate Tai Chi origin, the innate force origin, and the postnatal lightning origin. It would be difficult to find a master for these 3. Among his concubines, none of them cultivated the innate Tai Chi, postnatal lightning, or innate force. None of them were even close to him. As for the many experts in the Spirit Sea God system, there were some quasi-world-level experts who were compatible with these 3 Xing Shen origin. For example, the Thunder Grand Heavenly Venerate of the 8 Division Gods was a quasi-world-level expert who cultivated the postnatal lightning origin. However, this was too extravagant. Moreover, Qin Feng wasn't so generous as to give away the precious Xing Shen origin to his subordinate. While thinking, Qin Feng quickly came up with an idea. With a thought. Rumble. The experts in the Spirit Sea immediately sensed it. Above the Heavenly Palace's Merit Hall, endless golden light bloomed from the merit hall, startling the experts in the universe. The experts who were exchanging merit points for treasures in the merit hall were shocked. Such a powerful treasure was emitting golden light. This was a sign that a great treasure was on the list. Many experts hurriedly looked at the All Heavens merit list in the middle. The 3 treasures at the top of the merit list had already been replaced. In third place was a treasure called the Postnatal Lightning Origin, and there was an introduction at the back. The Postnatal Lightning Origin, an postnatal origin treasure, was refined after the fall of the extraterritorial world realm, sacred god of thunder. It contains the wonders of the postnatal lightning origin. Effect: can greatly enhance the world origin or a cultivator's origin. Special note: according to the speculation of the Spirit Sea Lord, the primeval sacred god, a quasi-world level expert of the lightning origin, can increase the chances of attaining the Tao by more than 10%. Can be exchanged for 3 billion merit points. Can be exchanged for 3 billion merit points. Many experts were a little dazed. 3 billion merit points was simply unheard of. It was a heaven-defying price. Many powerhouses were shocked as they looked up at the Heavens Merit Exchange section. Ranked second on the All Heavens Merit Exchange list, the Origin of Primordial Power, a primordial origin treasure that was refined after the fall of an extraterritorial saint god of primordial power. It contained the profundity of primordial power. Effect: can greatly enhance the world origin or a cultivator's origin. Special note: according to the speculation of the Spirit Sea Lord, the primeval sacred god, a quasi-world level expert of the postnatal origin, can increase the chances of attaining the Tao by more than 10%. Can be exchanged for 4 billion merit points. There was also a postnatal origin treasure at the top. However, many experts had no time to look at it. The experts of the major forces had already gone crazy and rushed to the headquarters of the major forces. In the eyes of many experts, only the words "origin treasure" were left. Chapter 1569. The Guo family was a small, ordinary family. They didn't have a long history. At the end of the Antiquity era, the era before the Spirit Sea's evolution was called the Antiquity era, they were just an ordinary family with 1,000 years of history. They cowered in a city in the lightning spiritual region. Like many other ordinary families, they fought for control of a city in hopes of standing out. Guo Yuchen was a junior cultivator of the Guo family. He originally thought that he would be like some of the Guo family's senior cultivators, holed up in Thunder Rain City, and fought with the other families for the rest of his life. However, the Spirit Sea's world changed and returned to the Antiquity era. This changed the fate of too many people, too many families, and too many sections. Guo family's fate was also changed. Guo family's cultivators were lucky. As the world changed, primordial Xingqian school gradually stood out. While the other forces were still observing and considering, the head of the Guo family took over. He decided to side with primordial Xingqian school, which was still in the embryonic stage of the Spirit Sea God system. Reality proved that Guo family had good foresight. Primordial Xingqian school had its ups and downs, but after the primordial beginning Saint God's Tao, it became the Spirit Sea God system, a colossus that spanned across the heavens. Guo family's initial investment reaped great returns. The Spirit Sea divine system's sentient will and many small factions followed them, and they gave many of their subordinate factions great rewards. Today, the families that followed Guo family to side with primordial Xingqian school each received a piece of the outer realms as their territory. Guo family was the same. In ancient times, only the top God-fiend clans and emperor-level clans could possess an outer realm world as their territory. Guo family rose up. Thanks to the Guo family taking advantage of this opportunity to transform, the entire Guo family's strength rapidly increased at the beginning of the 1,000 years after the Spirit Sea's transformation. They even had 2 innate deity kings. Innate deity kings, this was unimaginable in the Guo family of Thunder Rain City. Guo Yuchen was one of them. He was very lucky to have obtained part of the inheritance of the Five Thunder Great Emperor, an ancient peerless expert. The Five Lightnings Great Emperor was the current Thunder Clan's Grand Empyrean, Lei Qianqiu. When the Thunder Tribe's great heavenly venerate Lei Qianqiu emerged and became the leader of the Thunder Tribe, Guiyuchen entered the Thunder Tribe. She caught the eye of the Thunder Tribe's great heavenly venerate Lei Qianqiu and was accepted as a disciple in name. Today he was carrying out the duties of the Lightning Department, and after he killed a God King that had committed evil, he'd originally intended to use a portion of the virtue points he obtained to exchange for some divine materials. He was going to head to the Fire Tribe's Heaven's Craft residence to refine his natal divine weapon. As soon as the 3 origin energy treasures appeared, he immediately realized that this was an opportunity. Of course, Guiyuchen was very clear that even if he had cultivated the innate deity king body, he still did not have the capital to exchange for the acquired lightning origin. 3 billion merit points was an unbearable amount even for some innate celestial monarchs. But that might not be the case for Lei Qianqiu. However, Guiyuchen was very clear that in the Spirit Sea, the Thunder Tribe's Grand Empyrean Lei Qianqiu wasn't the only lightning-type quasi-major 1,000-world-level expert. For example, the guest elder, the Thunder Rock Demon Emperor, was the supreme ancestor of the dark lightning rock race of the wild desolate spirit realm. There was also Ancestor God Du Tian. Ancestor God Du Tian was the first lightning god in the primordial era. He had fallen several times before, but now, he had been reborn. Furthermore, he had become one of the Thunder Tribe's celestial monarchs, and one of the Thunder Tribe's 8 lightning ancestors. His position in the Thunder Tribe was only slightly inferior to the Thunder Tribe's Grand Empyrean. He could be said to be a strong competitor for the Thunder Tribe's Grand Empyrean. Once he broke through first, he would definitely challenge the Thunder Tribe's Master of Gods. There were also the 2 ancient lightning ancestors, and they were not ordinary people. One could imagine how passive the Thunder Tribe's Grand Empyrean, 5 Thunder Great Emperor, would be once they received the news first. There was no lack of the lightning ancestors' trusted aides and spies in the palace. I can't let them get ahead of me. Such a thought flashed through Guiyuchen's mind, and in the next moment, his eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Pucci! A blood-red lightning bolt flew out from the All-Heaven Merit Palace. Blood escape. Seeing this scene, many experts in the All-Heaven Merit Palace were stunned. Blood escape consumed one's own essence blood as the price to increase the speed of the escape art. Generally speaking, blood escape was only used when fleeing for one's life. Because the essence blood consumed by blood escape was one's foundation, it would leave a very terrifying hidden injury or even permanently damage one's foundation. However, it was undeniable that this method of burning one's essence blood was simple but very effective. In an instant, many experts' eyes turned red. Streams of light shot out in all directions. In the Firmament Imperial Court, the Thunder Tribe's office was built on another branch of the Chaos World Tree. It was a huge elemental world formed purely by lightning. A blood-red light streaked across the sky, and a pale Guiyuchen appeared in the Thunder Tribe's Battle Thunder Hall. At this moment, in the Hall of Fighting Thunder, many experts of the Thunder Sect were dealing with a lot of official documents through the interlocking Thunder Net set by the Inescapable Net. The Thunder Tribe's Grand Empyrean had manifested his divine kingdom, creating a divine kingdom avatar to preside over everything here. This divine kingdom avatar had stripped away the 7 emotions and 6 desires, leaving only the original divine kingdom avatar. It was selfless, and incomparably just. Profound Thunder God King, what happened to you? Who hurt you? On the divine throne, the 5 Thunder Emperor frowned as he looked at the profound Thunder God King, who had suddenly barged in. As one of the Thunder Tribe's God Kings, Guiyuchen's strength wasn't low. Moreover, Thunder Tribe experts were known for their offensive power that far exceeded those of the same level. Who could hurt profound thunder god king? Although the sin god he was sent to capture was also a god king, it was definitely impossible for him to injure profound thunder god king to this extent. Guiyuchen's breathing was hurried. He ignored his injuries from using too much essence blood and sent a hurried voice transmission. Heavenly Venerable, quickly prepare merit point. There's an acquired thunder origin from the Thunder Saint God on the All Heavens merit ranking. It's worth 3 billion merit points. What? Acquired thunder origin? The 5 Thunder Emperor's expression froze. The next moment, a majestic figure flashed and appeared in the Battle Thunder Hall. Lightning exploded. 5 Thunder Emperors. It was the original body of the 5 Thunder Emperor, who was cultivating in seclusion. His eyes were blazing, and countless bolts of lightning surrounded him. The thunder precepts directly manifested in the hall. It was enough to show how excited this Thunder Tribe's great heavenly venerable was. "Haha, good, good, good. Good lad." He said good 3 times in a row. It was enough to show how shocked the 5 Thunder Emperor was. No one knew better than them how important acquired thunder origin was to quasi-world level experts like them. Almost instinctively, he filled the residences of the various great heavenly venerables as fast as he could. After half a day, the 5 Thunder Emperor, who was in debt and almost broke, entered the All Heavens Merit Hall and was the first to exchange for the acquired thunder origin. It wasn't just the 5 Thunder Emperor. After the 3 origin treasures were listed, the entire Spirit Sea was in an uproar. Chapter 1570. On the Heavens Merit Exchange list, origin source treasures were ranked above the human, yellow, mystic, earth, heaven, and connate grades. They were considered the top treasures. If it weren't for the Lord of the Spirit Sea and the primeval divine god, the Lingshao celestial court would have been reduced to a bloody battlefield. 3 origins of saint gods. I didn't expect him to not only resist the chaos fleet of the Western Dragon God system several hundred years ago, but he also captured 4 saint gods alive. Within the Sun Palace, the light origin holy god ancestor Phoenix's eyes trembled. Hundreds of years ago, Qin Feng had escaped unscathed. The gods only knew that he had single-handedly repelled the invasion of the Western Dragon God system and successfully protected the Spirit Sea. While he was at it, he also killed 2 saint deities. In the primal chaos, there had been 2 instances of the Great Tao's sorrow, where the laws had turned into blood. Ancestor Phoenix had seen this clearly. However, he did not expect Qin Feng to capture 3 Xing deities alive. Killing a sacred god and capturing 2 sacred gods were 2 completely different concepts. Although it was true that a rank 16 saint deity was not a match for a rank 17 king of the greater Thousand Realms, he was still capable of shattering his own sovereign's godhead and shattering the laws. Broken jade and intact tiles. There was only one way to capture someone alive, and that was if the person couldn't even react in time and was forcefully suppressed and sealed. He looked at the 2 remaining connate origins on the All Heavens merit roll. The 5 Thunders Emperor is really lucky. He actually took the initiative. He sighed inwardly. She shook her head inwardly as she looked at the many Phoenix clan powerhouses who were eager to give it a try. The Phoenix race was strong, but there were very few quasi-greater Thousand World Realm experts. The Phoenix ancestor landed on the Thunder Phoenix ancestral god of the Thunder Phoenix clan. If the acquired Thunder origin had not been bought by the 5 Thunder Great Emperor, she might have been able to give it a try. However, the Phoenix frowned. Perhaps she could give it a try now. As a 16th generation post-celestial saint deity, to reach the 17th step, he needed to comprehend the innate law, and then fuse with an opposite innate law. Buying a Xiantian origin source was a good choice. In the future, if the rules were different from the Xiantian origin source, it would be useful when breaking through to the 17th level. They could plan for a rainy day. However, 4 billion was undoubtedly a sky-high price. Even though she was a sacred god, she still felt a headache coming on. That was a sky-high price. Even if they sold the entire Phoenix clan, they still wouldn't be able to afford it. Ancestor Phoenix could not help but curse that person in her heart for being a bandit. However, the Sciention source energy was indeed worth the price. In the netherworld, the earthly sovereign and the holy god were awakened from their seclusion. The origin of innate power, the origin of innate Tai Chi. There was a look of pity in his eyes. Those two innate origins were undoubtedly extremely precious. However, what earthly sovereign Xing Shen Wang Daoi needed the most wasn't the innate Qi origin or the innate Tai Chi origin, but the innate death origin. But maybe I can buy it first. Earthly sovereign sacred god King Daoi had the same thought as Phoenix ancestor. Better safe than sorry. Innate source energies were not common. As for the huge price of 4 billion merit points, Wang Daoi frowned slightly. Since the earthly sovereign had taken over the netherworld, the powerful warriors of the earthly sovereign's faction were scattered all over the huge mountain ranges and spiritual mountains. As the first postnatal saint god to be born under the spirit ocean dominator, he was undoubtedly very wealthy. However, 4 billion merit points was something that even the netherworld could not afford. Looks like I can only borrow from the outside. Wang Daoi felt a little helpless. It was hard to imagine that he, the lord of the underworld, the earthly sovereign sacred god, would one day have to borrow from the outside. However, at this moment, Wang Daoi's expression changed. It wasn't just Wang Daoi. At this moment, everyone in the Spirit Sea who were paying attention to the Khanate origins on the All Heavens merit roll and were collecting debts everywhere saw the Khanate Tai Chi origin, which was ranked first, disappear in a flash of golden light. Someone had exchanged for the innate Tai Chi origin. This thought flashed across the minds of all the powerful warriors. In the next moment, the eyes of many warriors turned red. Who? Who? At this moment, many of the quasi-world realm warriors lost their composure. Their faces were ferocious as they looked around the spirit ocean crazily, as if they were going to devour someone. Waves of uncontrollable aura manifested into lightning and fire that filled the myriad worlds, causing billions of people to turn pale with fright. Innate source energies were like life-saving straws in the eyes of many powerful warriors. Yet, someone had snatched it from the jaws of a tiger. However, the person who bought the innate Tai Chi origin wasn't as high profile as the Five Thunder Emperor. She didn't come directly in person. She had bought the innate Tai Chi origin without anyone noticing. There were probably only two people who knew who had bought the innate Tai Chi origin. One was the primeval saint god, and the other was the owner of the All Heavens merit ranking, the All Heavens space-time and trading master. Who the hell is it? How dare they beat me to it? On the throne of the underworld, Wang Daoi's expression was ugly. Of the two innate origins, he preferred the innate Tai Chi origin more. His gaze was sharp as he looked around the myriad worlds and into the depths of the greater worlds. 4 billion merit points was an extremely heavy debt even for the underworld. There weren't many in the spirit ocean who were qualified to buy it. In the Master God's palace on the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng sat on the god throne formed by the Chaos World Tree in the center of the spirit ocean. His brows furrowed, and the corners of his mouth twitched. When the innate Tai Chi origin was bought, he realized that the merit points in his merit card had decreased by 4 billion. Of course, this wasn't Qin Feng playing the game of buying and selling. Someone really did buy the innate Tai Chi origin with his merit points. Qin Feng's merit points had been accumulating since the establishment of the Spirit Ocean God system. In the All Heavens space-time trading master, most of the most primitive spiritual items were provided by him. Many spiritual items were sold in his Master God World's planes. After these spiritual items were sold, the All Heavens Spacetime and Trading Master would transfer a portion of the profit to him every year. Qin Feng didn't know how many merit points he had. But 4 billion was still not a small number. On the throne, Qin Feng's expression sank. He remembered that he had made several supplementary cards out of his merit card and given them to a few concubines. According to the concubines' grades, they were divided into 5 grades. Each supplementary card could earn a portion of merit points. The lowest grade card could earn 100 million merit points. But there was only one supplementary card that could earn 4 billion merit points. It was the Empress card. Qin Feng remembered that he had given the Empress card to Red Lotus? Is that girl preparing to? Qin Feng's eyes flashed with thought. Underground, on the blood god throne in the endless blood river, Red Lotus opened her palm and a huge ball of light floated in the air. Chapter 1571. The innate Tai Chi origin wasn't the Tai Chi of the 4 divisions of Yin and Yang. Among the innate 5 manifestations, it was the Tai Chi of Tai Chu, Tai Shi, Tai Su, and Tai Yi. Rather than Tai Chi, it was more accurate to call it the Tao of innate infinity. The Tao of infinity was the essence of Tai Chi, the essence of Tai Chi was the essence of Qi. Yin and Yang were divided into heaven and earth. Before the universe's Qi gave birth to form, the universe's form contained Qi. The essence of Qi was Yin and Yang, and the essence of Qi was Tai Chi. Infinity was endless. This was innately compatible with the changes of the endless blood river. If it was before the innate Tai Chi origin, Red Lotus would have taken a step back and tried to combine with the postnatal blood law. But the birth of the innate Tai Chi origin and the birth of the innate Tai Chi origin moved Red Lotus. The innate Tai Chi origin was absorbed into her body inch by inch. The innate Tai Chi origin Saint God's imprints in the Tai Chi origin were all removed. Only a portion of the pure Tai Chi origin law was left. Blood mist roiled in her body and endless blood light fused into her body. She slowly began to derive the innate Tai Chi true inheritance. In the main god's palace, Qin Feng's gaze pierced through the 18 levels of hell and into the depths of the endless blood river. Qin Feng instantly understood Red Lotus's every move and intention. A trace of surprise flashed in Qin Feng's eyes. However, he understood Hong Lian better. The endless blood river contained life, death, and yin and yang. It was actually a good choice to elevate the innate life and death and innate yin and yang. However, the spirit sea couldn't produce the innate life and death and innate yin and yang laws in a short period of time. The innate Tai Chi origin was a good choice. Moreover, the spirit sea produced the innate Tai Chi origin law. But Qin Feng frowned. There were pros and cons. The endless blood river and the 18 levels of hell greatly enhanced the postnatal blood law and the postnatal evil law. If Red Lotus focused on the innate Tai Chi origin law, the endless blood river and the 18 levels of hell's enhancement would be minimal. Qin Feng's original plan was to let Red Lotus attain the Tao with his help. The Red Lotus was born from the blood fiend will of heaven and earth. It was extremely suitable for cultivating the acquired blood precept. With the help of Qin Feng, the ruler of the spirit sea, the chances of him attaining his Tao were extremely high. However, if he were to switch to the innate Tai Chi laws, it would be extremely dangerous. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a trace of helplessness. Based on his understanding of Red Lotus was sometimes very obedient, but at other times she was abnormally stubborn. He might not be able to persuade Hong Lian. Furthermore, this was Red Lotus's own will and choice. Every quasi-greater thousand-world realm expert had their own choice, their own path. Qin Feng thought. Fine, since you have the heart, I'll lend you a hand. With a point of his finger, a stream of light tore through the endless space-time and fell into the depths of the endless blood river, into the Red Lotus body. This is? Red Lotus opened her eyes on the divine throne formed by the crimson blood river. 2 faint crimson dots flickered in her eyes. The authority of the heavenly network. Her eyes flashed with a hint of gentleness. She glanced in the direction of the Chaos World Tree and snorted softly. She could feel the power of the heavenly network converging in her divine soul. Her deduction and calculation abilities were more than 10 times faster than before. What a biased guy! In the All Heavens trading space, the All Heavens trading network was connected through the heavenly network to every corner of the endless dimensions of spacetime. In every world, in every plane, the All Heavens Spacetime Trading Network had one or more children of fortune as agents. As the controller of the All Heavens Trading Network, the Phoenix Empress had a record of every transaction in the All Heavens Trading Network. No one else knew what the ancestral god of hell was doing, but the Phoenix Empress was well aware of it. There was a trace of anger and dissatisfaction on the beautiful face of the white-clothed woman. However, even if that guy is biased, I will never lose to you. She looked into the depths of the void, where there were countless golden lights lingering. She narrowed her eyes, and there was a hint of joy in her eyes. The various domains of the Spirit Sea were in an uproar after the innate Tai Chi origin was traded away. Countless experts called their friends and began to accumulate merit points. This was the last innate Tai Chi origin, and they couldn't afford to lose it. In particular, the quasi-world level experts who cultivated the laws of connate power were like ants on a hot pan. But 4 billion merit points wasn't a small number. Even the 5 Thunder Emperor had to rely on the help of the 8 Masters of Gods and a huge debt to gather such a huge amount of merit points. As for the other factions, some quasi-world level experts weren't from the Spirit Sea Pantheon. Although merit points could be obtained through the All Heavens trading space and trading space, it wasn't enough. It was a drop in the bucket. The quasi-world level experts who weren't from the Spirit Sea Pantheon were worried sick. The quasi-world level experts who belonged to the Spirit Sea Divine System were also on fire, unable to land on the ground. The main reason was that the Thunder Tribe's great celestial venerate had already visited the 8 Masters of Gods and the Deity King residences. He'd already borrowed most of the merit points. Everyone was clean now. Half a month later, as the innate Tai Chi origin was traded away, many experts lost their chance. On the Chaos World Tree, there were countless legends of connate laws. At the center of the divine throne, Qin Feng's 3 flowers swayed above his head. The second lotus was faintly discernible, and the 9th rank was faintly discernible. It was about to be perfected. Qin Feng had known this for a long time. With the Book of Universe, the connate law spirit treasure born from the innate Tai Chi origin, it was only a matter of time before the innate Tai Chi origin was perfected. At this moment, faint traces of purple lingered around him on the divine throne. His 10 fingers intertwined, and countless seals resonated with the depths of the Spirit Sea. It was as if a huge purple door was gradually opening above his head. It was the primordial gate formed by the primordial Tai Chi origin. Primordial Tai Chi origin roiled within. The 3 flowers above Qin Feng's head spun slowly. As the 3rd illusory lotus spun, strands of purple lingered and were absorbed and refined by the 3rd lotus. The 3rd lotus gradually turned into a purple, extremely noble primordial Tai Chi origin. This was the most crucial step in breaking through to the 18th level. Only by condensing the primordial Tai Chi origin could one further condense and absorb the boundless providence to nurture their own connate laws. The primordial Tai Chi origin was extremely important. Any 17th level expert would be able to convert their own connate laws into connate primordial Tai Chi origin, greatly increasing their strength. However, the primordial Tai Chi origin was extremely rare. Apart from the 3rd illusory lotus, there were also strands of primordial Tai Chi origin fusing into the other 2 lotuses. This was an extremely extravagant method. Chapter 1572. Connate primordial purple chi was extremely precious. Usually, there were only 49 strands of connate primordial purple chi in the 49 void great cosmos. Generally speaking, Only 3 strands of connate primordial purple chi were needed to condense a primordial void Tao lotus. 7 connate laws were born in the spirit sea. Correspondingly, there were 7 strands of connate primordial purple chi. At this moment, 3 strands of connate primordial purple chi surrounded the third great Tao lotus. The other 4 strands were split into 2. 3 strands entered a 9th grade lotus that represented the connate creation law, while the other strand entered an 8th grade lotus that represented the connate universe law. The connate primordial purple chi lingered and fused into the great Tao lotus. The 2 gray great Tao lotus carried traces of purple. This was undoubtedly extravagant. The 3 great Tao lotus were all converted into primordial Tao lotuses. This would definitely strengthen his cultivation and increase his strength to the greatest extent. Qin Feng could feel that after fusing with the connate primordial purple chi, his control of the connate laws had increased greatly. Some of them were more obscure, but they were clearer. His power had also increased greatly. It was as if he could easily suppress and kill his previous self. If Qin Feng hadn't obtained the connate primordial purple chi, he could at most defeat and suppress ordinary kings of the 17th Great Thousand World. However, after obtaining the connate primordial purple chi, the primordial laws could easily kill existences of the same level. Suppressing and killing were 2 completely different concepts. It represented a qualitative change. However, this didn't mean that Qin Feng had already stepped into the 18th Great Thousand World. In fact, he was still very far away from the 18th Great Thousand World. Condensing the primordial Tao lotus was only the first step. Next, he still needed providence to completely fuse the connate primordial purple chi with the connate laws he had mastered. As the ruler of the spirit sea, Qin Feng's providence was undoubtedly enormous. The 3 great Tao lotuses rotated, and there were 3 strands of connate primordial purple chi lingering on each of them. Only the great Tao lotus in the center had only 1 strand of connate primordial purple chi condensing. A huge amount of providence condensed above Qin Feng's head. Some belonged to the spirit sea divine system, some belonged to the innate laws of creation, and some belonged to the innate laws of creation, and some belonged to the innate laws of universe. There was also the fate that the experts of the 3,000 spirit realms had offered as tribute. There was also the fate that belonged to the lineage of star and so on. If all that luck were to appear, it would be enough to shock billions of living beings. However, the boundless fortune seemed minuscule before the strands of primordial violet chi above the 3 flowers of the great Tao. Like a whale sucking in water, the surging fortune was quickly absorbed by the 3 strands of primordial violet chi above the third lotus. At a speed visible to the naked eye, nearly 80 to 90% of the primordial violet chi was consumed. The first and second primordial violet chi slowly fused into the third Tao lotus. The illusory lotus of the great Tao manifested itself the moment it merged with the 2 strands of connate primordial purple chi. It possessed the power to devour the myriad worlds. However, Qin Feng was forced to awaken from his seclusion the moment he fused with the 2 strands of primordial violet chi. His providence was not enough. Qin Feng opened his eyes. He could clearly see that the enormous amount of destiny that had belonged to him was now nothing more than a dried-up riverbed. The consumption was too great. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a trace of unsightly expression. Even though he had long understood that his current luck was not enough to support such a huge consumption, he still felt a trace of a huge gap. One should know that he had the support of the entire spirit sea at that moment. However, even so, it only allowed him to fuse with 2 strands of primordial violet chi. One should know that he had 7 strands of primordial violet chi. Even if he took a step back, he was still far from fusing with 3 strands of primordial violet chi. It's a pity that the spirit sea has just advanced for less than 10,000 years. Otherwise, with the potential of the spirit sea, it should be able to increase my providence by 2 times. Qin Feng's eyes twinkled. If his providence were to increase by 2 times, it would be enough to fuse with the 3rd and 4th strands of primordial violet qi. If the spirit sea could one day turn into a high-level 4-9 void great universe like the primeval void great universe and the origin divine realm, it would be able to support 3 or even 4 level 18 powerhouses, let alone one. But to become a high-level 4-9 void great universe? Qin Feng shook his head. This was not something that could be done overnight. With a move of his palm, 2 strands of primordial violet qi fused with a part of the Khanate rules of order. The primordial violet qi turned into a small knife. He locked his gaze on the chaotic void outside the spirit sea. Go! The purple knife slashed at the chaos. The blurry purple brilliance was like an immortal rainbow that streaked across the vast chaos, illuminating billions of gray void spaces. Billions of miles of chaos were split open by the knife light. The eternally vast chaos was separated, forming a billion-miles-long opening. There was a faint purple mist that could not be healed in a short period of time. Primordial violet qi. Even a rank 17 expert would become a ghost under this knife. On top of the chaotic world tree, on a huge world plain full of peach blossoms, the pink-robed witch's beautiful eyes flickered. She had a great background. In fact, she was not born in the Chaos Sea and had seen countless geniuses. However, she had to admit that there were only a few people who were as lucky as Qin Feng. Even someone as noble as her had not seen many sacred deities at such a young age. Another one of the 3 archaic sovereigns, someone like the great emperor of the eastern wilderness. The chaos is so fond of this region. The pink-robed witch's eyes flickered with a sigh, but then her eyes flickered as she thought of this strange phenomenon. She thought of an extremely obscure secret. Could it be that this area is? Her eyes flickered with a strange light as she pondered. It was already a great fortune for an existence like the great emperor of the eastern wilderness to be born in billions of worlds in an ordinary chaotic region. However, such existences had appeared one after another in this region. The primordial violet Taoist, the 3 archaic sovereigns, and the heavenly emperor of the spirit sea before her. How could there not be something fishy about this? The arrival of the experts from the nobles of the chaos also proved this point. The nobles of the chaos were born in the chaos and were very sensitive to the changes in the chaos. Even though the pink-robed witches clan was far more powerful than the nobles of the chaos, they were far inferior in this aspect. Looking at the terrifying scene of the chaos opening up in the chaos, the purple knife light reappeared in Qin Feng's palm. The small knife shrouded in purple mist reappeared. As thin as a cicada's wing, the purple light was agile. Qin Feng's eyes flickered with satisfaction. He had always lacked a long-range attack secret technique. This primordial violet flying knife completely made up for his shortcoming in this aspect. If another fleet of Xing gods like the Dragon God system of the West came to visit, this knife light alone would be enough to embarrass them. Chapter 1573. This blade light combined a part of the mysteries of the Khanate universe law and a part of the mysteries of the Khanate creation law. It was agile and extremely destructive. Looking at the purple flying blade in his palm, the purple gas gradually disappeared into his palm. At this level of cultivation, it was meaningless for him to go into seclusion again. Qin Feng's indifferent eyes flickered with a thoughtful look. To him, there was only one way to improve now, and that was to find a way to collect providence. The more providence he had, the more Khanate primordial purple qi he would integrate. Also, if possible, he might have to find 2 more Khanate primordial purple qi. 9 Khanate primordial purple qi was the limit of the 3 flowers of Tao. Qin Feng pondered for a moment about collecting providence. He only had 2 choices now. He could expand the spirit sea or set his sights on the other 33 realms of heaven. He temporarily gave up on the second choice. The nobles of chaos were eyeing the other 33 realms of heaven covetously, but not now. The timing was not right. Thinking of the marquises of primordial chaos, Qin Feng suddenly remembered the goal of the experts of the marquises of primordial chaos. They were looking for a place where providence gathered. According to the nobles of chaos, the chaos providence in the endless void flowed relatively. It would shift every 128,000 eras. Last time, the place where the chaos providence gathered in the endless void had shifted to the swirling sea. Therefore, the swirling sea became the center of the endless void chaos in the 128,000 eras. Hundreds of millions of powerful races gathered here to share the huge cake. With the help of the boundless providence, many powerful forces in the chaos-filled bowls, and even an eternal perfect universe was born. This was a great opportunity that was hard to find in the world. Correspondingly, some of the major forces that had not found a place where providence gathered gradually declined due to the huge gap between them. In the last chaos era, the nobles of chaos were just prey, treasures, and even targets pursued by the thousands of races in the chaos. They had seized the great era of the chaos revolution to rise in one fell swoop, giving birth to a level 19 powerhouse and becoming one of the top 10 races in the chaos. No one dared to look down on them or see them as targets to be devoured or possessed. According to the observations of several nobles of chaos, this place seemed strange. There seemed to be something fishy about this chaotic region. It was somewhat similar to the place where luck gathered. The reason was that the chaotic region had given birth to too many experts over the past 1,000 eras, and it was almost on par with some of the places with dense karmic luck at the center of the chaotic swirling sea. However, the experts from the chaos noble clans were still unsure. At the beginning of the primal chaos epoch, under the flourishing of providence, it was possible for many smoky lands to be born. This could be an illusion to confuse many experts. In the last chaos epoch, or even before that, there were records that many powerful forces had suffered such losses. They had been deceived by false appearances and lost the initiative. There was another possibility. Perhaps there was an extremely shocking treasure hidden in the primal chaos region, causing the primal chaos karmic luck to gather, resulting in such a phenomenon. However, no matter what the situation was, the royal family of the primal chaos had to investigate. Qin Feng's misgivings also stemmed from this. If it was a treasure, Qin Feng would naturally check it out before the experts of the marquises of chaos did. For such a powerful treasure to be able to affect such a large area of the primal chaos region, it had to be a rare supreme treasure in the entire primal chaos. If it was a place where luck gathered, it could not leave the spirit sea. When luck gathered, the nearby worlds would undergo rapid changes. In a short period of time, more upper realms of the 33 heavens would appear. If he could take advantage of this opportunity to devour a few, the spirit sea would definitely be able to become an important high-level upper realm like the origin divine realm in the shortest time possible. Qin Feng's gaze fell on the spirit sea. His expression was somewhat strange. From the goal of the nobles of chaos, he thought of another matter. Until now, he still did not understand how the spirit sea had suddenly advanced. According to the spirit sea, which had been almost completely emptied by the reincarnators, how could it have advanced all of a sudden? This change was extremely strange. It was like a person who indulged in wine and women every day and was hollowed out by wine and women suddenly became so strong that he could fight against 10 or 100 people. Or become an immortal who could control the wind and spit out thunder and lightning. No matter how he looked at it, it did not seem normal. It was just that Qin Feng had used the inescapable net to search the spirit sea hundreds of times, but he did not find any clues. Qin Feng now had a guess. If this primal chaos region did indeed have an extremely terrifying supreme treasure, and it was in the spirit sea, it could be that this supreme treasure was concealing itself. Of course, it had directly recognized an existence in the spirit sea as its master. This was an extremely terrifying guess. If the first possibility was that the supreme treasure was concealing itself, hiding, then so be it. If the second possibility was that it had recognized an existence as its master, then it would be a huge blow to Qin Feng, the ruler of the spirit sea. With this unique supreme treasure, it would probably grow to a level where it could threaten Qin Feng, the ruler of the spirit sea. Along the way, Qin Feng had defeated countless sons of providence. He was very clear about the nature of those sons of providence. And with that chaos-level supreme treasure, it would not be an exaggeration to say that that person was the chaos-level supreme son of providence born in this primal chaos region. Qin Feng didn't want to end up in the role of a king's pioneer and give the spirit sea to others for nothing. He did not want to become a stepping stone, or a role like the ultimate villain. However, he was the ruler of the spirit sea, the owner of the colossal spirit sea divine system. Once that chaos-level son of providence was about to grow, he would definitely compete with him for the spirit sea's providence. This kind of competition for providence was destined to be enemies. Qin Feng moved his palm, and an invisible force appeared on his palm. It was a giant net that filled billions of voids and covered the heavens and the earth. The inescapable net's rules. The inescapable net was vaguely connected to the Master God's palace. The information of billions of living beings was in it, including some born geniuses, prodigies, low-level sons of providence, and high-level sons of providence. Those sons of providence relied on all kinds of systems, all kinds of old grandpas, and all kinds of treasures. They were all monitored by the Master God's palace. Qin Feng did not hope to use the inescapable net to find out who the chaos-level son of providence was. Ordinary sons of providence could not escape the inescapable net's search, but that unknown chaos-level son of providence was definitely not that simple. The inescapable net would definitely not be able to find out. At this moment, Qin Feng's expression changed, and he suddenly raised his head. There was a sudden change in the spirit sea. Chapter 1574. Rumble. The myriad worlds in the heavens shook violently. In the billions of voids, the laws of countless worlds of various sizes manifested. Is this a Tao integration phenomenon? On the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng's gaze fell upon one of the 3,000 spirit regions. After 3,000 years, has someone finally mustered the courage to break through to the greater 1,000 world level? Qin Feng's gaze deepened. Qin Feng, the ruler of the spirit sea, wasn't the only one who noticed this. At this moment, all the experts in the universe noticed this as well. At this moment, all the experts stopped what they were doing and looked at one of the 3,000 spirit domains. Many innate gods of the younger generation had never experienced such a phenomenon that could shake the whole universe, but many ancient powerful beings knew what it meant. Someone's breaking through to the greater 1,000 world level. Someone's merging? After thousands of years, many experts were unfamiliar with such a phenomenon. They weren't sure. When the holy god of light merged, there hadn't been such a huge commotion. Many quasi-great world realm experts furrowed their brows tightly. Although the phenomena were different, many quasi-major 1,000 world realm powerhouses were certain that someone was at the Tao integration stage. Generally speaking, there would be some kind of phenomenon in each major realm, such as the God King, God Emperor, and quasi-world level. But the area of the phenomenon wasn't as large as this. I wonder if it's an acquired law or an innate one. Many God Emperors and quasi-world experts were worried about the great Tao competition. It shouldn't be someone from the Spirit Sea Divine System. I wonder if they'll make a move. Many quasi-great world realm experts still had such worries. Many of the Spirit Sea Divine System's experts were also thinking the same thing. Only the Holy God of Earthly Sovereign and the Holy God of Light Origin weren't worried. Were they overthinking? Was the birth of a mere 16th order greater thousand world level expert worth the Spirit Sea Divine System's attention? On the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng's expression was impassive. He could clearly sense the gazes of many experts on the Spirit Sea Divine System. As a 17th order greater thousand world king level expert, he could see through any thoughts that were unfavorable to him. However, these people were overthinking things. Every time a level 16 world realm expert was born in the Spirit Sea, it was an improvement for the Spirit Sea. To Qin Feng, the ruler of the Spirit Sea, there were only advantages and no disadvantages. However, if the existence that had broken through was truly ignorant, he would only suppress it at most, not kill it. Wild wind, boundless wild wind. After the brief eruption of the Tao integration stage phenomenon, it reached its climax, and there seemed to be billowing gales rising from the spirit realm. There seemed to be countless connate wind origin chi in the Spirit Sea that appeared with the gales, and it was like a beautiful symphony that resounded throughout the myriad heavens and realms. The wind rhapsody of auspicious Tao. Acquired rules of wind. Its elder god gale from the myriad mountain region. Its ancestor god gale, the god monarch gale from the primordial era. Many quasi-great world realm experts recognized the figure shrouded in the wind. At this moment, many god emperors and quasi-greater thousand world realm experts who cultivated the law of wind began to feel nervous. On the sun star, in the sun palace, Ancestor Phoenix's beautiful eyes looked in the direction of the myriad mountain region. God Monarch Gale was an old acquaintance from the primordial era. In the past, he was a war general under Emperor Shi of the primordial era. When Emperor Shi ascended, he also retired. Many god emperors and quasi-greater thousand world realm experts who cultivated the acquired rules of wind could no longer hold back and rushed to the spirit realm with murderous intent. If God Monarch Gale was an expert from the Spirit Sea Divine System, it would be fine. Or if he was like the Sun Star, he could be protected by the Spirit Sea's origin rules of wind. Without any background, Emperor Shi's divine system could not reach here. A huge conflict broke out in the Myriad Mountain region. However, God Monarch Gale was already prepared. After some quasi-greater thousand world realm experts appeared, several quasi-greater thousand world realm experts rushed out. Ancestor God Tianxian, Ancestor God Empress Hua, Ancestor God Yinyang, Ancestor God Li Hua. Are they the remnants of Emperor Shi's sect? In the central heavenly court, where the Lingshao celestial court was located, on the central divine throne, Qin Feng's figure appeared out of thin air. Your Majesty, should we send people to clean up the myriad mountain region and capture the remnants of Emperor Shi's sect? Seeing Qin Feng appear, the Five Thunder Great Emperor, the Master of Gods from the Thunder Tribe, who had been waiting for a long time, was the first to stand out. Your Majesty, the remnants of Emperor Shi's sect and some of the stubborn members of the 72 mysterious sects have been opposing the Spirit Sea Divine System all these years. This is indeed a rare opportunity. Taoist Fengshe, the heavenly lord of the Plague Tribe, had a sinister look in his eyes. Many powerful warriors of the Plague sect, who were wearing all kinds of strange divine robes, also laughed weirdly. The Plague Tribe specialized in all kinds of poison-type superpowers and loved the corpses of experts the most. Seeing Five Thunder Great Emperor stand out, they were the first to agree. In the Lingshao Celestial Hall, many experts were eager to give it a try. Over the years, the resistance organizations had caused trouble for the Spirit Sea Divine System. Moreover, everyone knew that while capturing such sinful gods, they could also take over the operations of those sinful gods and plunder a portion of their fate. This could be said to be killing several birds with one stone. In the past, the experts of the resistance organizations hid in the dark like rats and were difficult to detect. Now that they had jumped out, it was a rare opportunity. All the experts looked fervently at the central divine throne. On the central divine throne, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a strange light. He couldn't help but think of the person with great fate that he had guessed. In this world, there weren't many forces that could go against the Spirit Sea divine system. The resistance organization formed by the experts of the 72 mysterious sects that had been defeated was definitely one of them. This was very suitable as a newbie village for the son of great fate. Maybe I can make some arrangements. A gloomy smile flashed in his eyes. When he raised his head, his expression returned to normal. He looked at the many experts of the Spirit Sea divine system below him who were eager to give it a try. After thinking for a while, Qin Feng said, "You can capture the members of the resistance organization, but you can't be directly involved in the battle of the Myriad Mountain region. This time, since the Thunder Tribe and Plague Tribe have volunteered, I'll leave it to you." Hearing this, the 8 tribes looked at each other. Among them, the Thunder Tribe and Plague Tribe's eyes lit up. "We won't let you down." The experts of the 2 tribes gradually disappeared from the celestial court. They quickly followed the tracks of the experts of the resistance organization and erased them into the depths of the myriad heavens. After half a day, the phenomenon of the myriad heavens shaking disappeared. Then, endless rules appeared between heaven and earth. 7 innate rules and 3,000 acquired rules. However, the phenomenon of these rules only flashed for a moment. Then, the 7 innate rules and many acquired rules disappeared, leaving only one acquired rule to truly manifest. The unification of the paths had officially begun. I hope we can succeed. In the deepest part of the myriad heavens, in a place that even the inescapable net couldn't see, 2 stalwart figures looked at the myriad mountain region of the Spirit Sea with anticipation. As long as the fierce Gale God attained Tao, he could at least tear the Spirit Sea apart with the great power of the unique treasure he found, and escape from the Spirit Sea Lord's evil clutches with the gods, let alone fight as an equal against the Spirit Sea Lord. Chapter 1575. In order to allow Emperor Gale to attain his Tao, the resistance organization had sacrificed a lot this time. A large number of elites were sent out, including the 4 quasi-world-level powerhouses of the Emperor Shi sect. If they failed, the resistance organization would suffer great losses. The phenomenon of the Great Tao Law lasted for half a day. Then, countless post-celestial and innate laws that intersected with the post-celestial wind law manifested their power. Many quasi-world-level powerhouses who did not participate in the blockade were watching this scene closely. At the same time, they greedily comprehended the power of the laws manifested by the Tao integration phenomenon. This was an excellent opportunity. Other than the first 1,000 years of the Spirit Sea's advancement, there were very few opportunities for laws to manifest directly. Now, the first 10,000 years of the Spirit Sea had not passed yet. Some of the laws were faintly manifesting in the various worlds, the billions of voids, the spirit veins, the spirit mountains, and the blessed lands. As the first 10,000 years passed, the laws would become more complete and more restrained. It was not just the quasi-world-level powerhouses, the Spirit Sea divine system, and the various spirit domains powerhouses. The great beings were all grasping this rare opportunity to comprehend the laws. This kind of comprehension was comparable to a long period of epiphany. It was something that could be encountered but not sought. After the many nomological phenomena manifested their power, Emperor Gale began to condense the Tao seed. Gradually, the billions of cultivators in the various worlds who cultivated the post-celestial wind law sensed that the post-celestial wind law in the void began to disappear. At this point, the quasi-world-level powerhouses who were attacking the Wanshan spirit region with all their might stopped. They knew that it was useless to continue attacking at this time. More nomological phenomena appeared as the Tao seed was condensed. However, just as the numerous phenomena were becoming more and more intense, all of the Tao integration stage phenomena suddenly froze. Rumble! In an instant, it was as if a bolt of lightning had struck the billions of voids and the hearts of many beings. Then, all the strange phenomena came to an abrupt stop and dispersed. We failed. At this moment, the 4 quasi-world-level powerhouses of the Emperor Shi sect, who were carefully guarding the surrounding quasi-world-level powerhouses, were dazed. Their faces were pale. Is it really so difficult to break through to the post-celestial world realm? Many quasi-golden world realm experts were also stunned. Many quasi-golden world realm experts even had a psychological shadow that could not be erased after Emperor Gale's failure. Emperor Gale is also a famous expert in the immemorial age. He even witnessed Ling Hai's advancement and accumulated a lot of experience. Even such an existence has failed. Do we still have any hope? Rather than fighting to the death, why don't we preserve our strength and maintain our strength? Many quasi-greater thousand-world realm experts had such thoughts. What a pity! In the main hall of the Lingshao Heavenly Court, many quasi-world-level experts of the Linghai Divine System witnessed the failure of Sir Godgale's breakthrough. They heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time they lamented. When the rabbit dies, the fox grieves. Animals hurt their own kind. However, after seeing the 2 saint gods and the Spirit Sea Lord, many quasi-great world-level experts quickly perked up. These were 3 very good role models. This was especially so with the full support of the Spirit Sea Divine System. At the very least, their chances of attaining the Tao were far above that of ordinary quasi-great world realm experts. Qin Feng looked at the Wanshan spiritual region. Emperor Gale's demise was within his expectations. Although Emperor Gale had a strong foundation and accumulated a lot of experience, he had lost some support from luck. If he wanted to attain the Tao, he would have to be extremely lucky. He muttered to himself. Qin Feng suddenly raised his head. At this moment, as Emperor Gale's breakthrough failed, the negative aura in the Spirit Sea rose. Another change was taking place. Suddenly, countless balls of black ink appeared in the sky. They were like boundless black ink, covering the sky and covering the sun as they spread through the millions of void. They covered the billions of voids and the stars in the sky. Even the huge sun star only revealed a dim black halo of light. Between heaven and earth, boundless power of darkness rose. It was as if the boundless darkness had broken through the ground and rushed up to the 9 heavens. Billions of living beings raised their heads in shock. Looking at this terrifying phenomenon, their faces were filled with shock. In the Wanshan spiritual region, the eyes of the 4 experts from the Emperor Shi sect and the experts from the rebel organization lit up. Joy flashed across their eyes. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the experts from the Wanshan spiritual region and the Emperor Shi sect instantly disappeared from the Wanshan spiritual region. However, the Spirit Sea Divine System was too lazy to pursue the experts from the rebel organization. In the huge vision, many beings who cultivated the acquired darkness-type rules of order felt an unprecedented shock. They felt as if they were bathing in the pure power of the origin of darkness, and their strength soared. On the other hand, the countless living beings and practitioners who cultivated the acquired darkness-type rules of order were greatly affected. Their power of light was suppressed to the lowest point in history. Many experts of light who were in a life-and-death battle had their cultivation suppressed in the vision and were killed by their enemies. They died unjustly. On the central divine throne of the chaotic world tree, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a strange light. He felt the extremely rich power of the origin of darkness. It was as if the power of darkness that had been condensed for billions of years in the depths of the earth had been released and rushed into the billions of galaxies. I didn't expect that the death of Emperor Gale would trigger the negative will of all living beings and cause the origin of darkness to descend. Immediately, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. But that, after merging with the chaotic evil god's origin, it must have been waiting for the origin of darkness to descend for a long time. With that person taking action, the position of holy god of the origin of darkness would most likely be taken. On the sun star, Ancestor Phoenix's face darkened. She seemed to have sensed the appearance of her archenemy and that the light was being provoked. Many light clans on the Sun Star seemed to be showing signs of depravity under the darkness. The power of light between heaven and earth was greatly suppressed. The light lineage's fortune instantly dropped by a notch. The holy god of light's expression was ugly. As the Lord of Light and the ruler of the Sun Star, the decline of the light lineage's fortune directly affected her cultivation speed. Even her own strength was greatly suppressed. Looking at the suppressed light around the Sun Star, Ancestor Phoenix rose from her divine throne and roared angrily. "Get out of my way!" Surging divine power of the origin of light vibrated. The Sun Star released a boundless brilliance that broke through the boundless darkness. Ancestor Phoenix released the Sun Star's power. Billions of rays of light violently broke through the boundless darkness. Light reappeared between heaven and earth in the billions of galaxies. Streaks of darkness rushed into the billions of galaxies and darkened the entire region, forming an enormous sea of origin of darkness. It led to the birth of a sacred land of the origin of darkness from the billions of galaxies. Chapter 1576. In the darkness origin star field, the huge trembling sound shook all the worlds in the universe. In the entire spirit sea, countless cultivators looked up at the star field filled with darkness. Even the Sun Star, which had activated most of the power of the stars, could not dispel the dense darkness. In the dense darkness origin starfield, a pitch-black floating mountain slowly emerged from the darkness origin starfield. That huge mountain seemed to be much larger than some of the ancient immemorial stars. Darkness origin sacred land. At this moment, all the experts who cultivated the acquired laws of darkness understood. Another origin sacred land has appeared. Many experts were in an uproar at this moment. This was especially true for several ancient quasi-major world realm darkness-type powerhouses. Their eyes were blazing, and they couldn't wait to rush over and occupy the darkness origin holy land. Unlike other treasures, origin sacred lands were nurtured by the spirit sea's origin and contained the densest and most direct origin laws. Origin spiritual treasures were also nurtured along with them. If one could become the master of an origin sacred land, their chances of breaking through to the upper world level were 70 or even 80%. A 70 to 80% chance was extremely shocking. If one missed this opportunity, there would not be another one. Some of the darkness-type quasi-world level experts were ecstatic. This is enviable. An origin sacred land. Why hasn't such a origin sacred land been born under the laws we cultivate? The eyes of many experts from the other factions were bloodshot. Not only was there a light origin sacred land, there was also a darkness origin sacred land. Wasn't this asking for trouble? They had worked so hard to seek the great Tao, and they might not even be able to break through. For example, Emperor Gale had died less than half a day ago. Why is the world so unfair? Not only the experts from the 3,000 spirit regions, but many experts in the Lingshao Celestial Court's main hall were also bitter. On the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng looked indifferent as he glanced at some of the experts in the Heavenly Court. The world was unpredictable, so how could there be justice? If there was justice, there was only self-improvement. If the heavens did not help, people had to help themselves. Even if one was a son of Providence, one might not be able to last forever. For example, Qin Feng, was born insignificant. He was not a child of great fortune. Rather than resenting the unfairness of the heavens, it was better to work hard to curry favor. In Qin Feng's opinion, what was a powerhouse? A powerhouse was able to adapt to all kinds of harsh environment. No matter how unfavorable the situation was, they would still be able to survive. As long as he lived to the end, that would be justice. Your Majesty, I request to temporarily resign from my position as Celestial Master and head to the Dark Star region to seek the Great Tao. Among the 8 groups of gods, Taoist Fengshe, celestial master of plague sect, was the first to step out. His eyes were blazing with passion. Although he cultivated in the postnatal plague law, the postnatal plague law was extremely close to the postnatal darkness law. He could also seek the position of darkness origin saint god. Your Majesty, I would also like to ask for leave. The smallpox god palace god emperor from the plague division stepped forward. The smallpox god abode belonged to the plague division. It was in charge of the plague of the spirit sea and cultivated the life and death of the 4 seasons. The smallpox god palace god emperor, Taoist black curse, was a quasi-greater world realm powerhouse who had just ascended 3,000 years ago. He cultivated in the postnatal curse law and could also seek the position of darkness origin saint god. Taoist black curse looked at Taoist Fengshe provocatively. The latter's murderous intent flashed past. Your Majesty, we would also like to request leave. 2 other ancient gods stepped forward. One of them was an ancient Star Lord from the Celestial Star Division. The other was the Star Lord of Great Destruction. The other was dressed in a long black dress. She was tall and elegant, and her stunning appearance made the gods lose their minds. In the Spirit Sea Divine System, she was an ancestor god who promoted the Dark Night. She was the Evernight goddess, Hua Yunxian. No one knew where she came from. Rumor had it that during the primordial age, when the heavens and earth were first created, a goddess was born in accordance with the will of the heavens and earth. She was one of the oldest ancient gods in the Spirit Sea. The Evernight goddess was not only one of the most beautiful goddesses in the Spirit Sea Divine System, but her strength was also above the other gods. She was said to be one of the quasi-greater world realm powerhouses who was most likely to break through to the greater world realm. On the throne, Qin Feng smiled and shook his head as he looked at the 4 dark elemental experts who stepped forward. You don't have to go. The Dark Origin Sacred Ground already has a master. What? These words were truly earth-shattering. Many experts were dumbfounded. Taoist Pestilence, Taoist Black Curse, the Star Lord of Great Destruction, and the Evernight Goddess all looked up at the Spirit Sea Ruler on the throne above their heads, slightly dazed. As the Spirit Sea Ruler, his words were like gold. The experts in the Celestial Court naturally didn't think that the Spirit Sea Ruler was intentionally deceiving them. In front of the gods, the earthly sovereign and the Phoenix ancestors' expressions changed slightly. They didn't sense that someone had taken over the Dark Origin Sacred Ground in advance. It was obvious that they were far inferior to the ruler of the Linghai Sea in terms of cultivation. Taoist Pestilence, Taoist Black Curse, the Star Lord of Great Destruction, and the Evernight Goddess looked at each other. Suddenly, the Star Lord of Great Destruction asked, Your Majesty, may I ask who beat us to the Dark Origin Sacred Grounds recognition? The 4 quasi-world level experts' eyes were filled with unwillingness. It wasn't easy for them to come across such a great opportunity, but someone had beaten them to it. More than that, they were filled with cold, murderous intent. It wasn't just the 4 quasi-world level experts. The experts of the Spirit Sea Divine System also looked at the Spirit Sea Ruler on the central throne with strange expressions. The emergence of an origin sacred ground was extraordinary. Someone who could gain its recognition in advance was definitely not an ordinary existence. Moreover, judging from the expression of the Spirit Sea Ruler on the central throne, it was obvious that this existence was very familiar with the Spirit Sea Ruler on the central throne. On the central divine throne, Qin Feng's gaze surveyed the numerous experts present. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng's eyes flickered and he smiled. Fine, since you're all curious, I'll tell you. Qin Feng waved his sleeve, and an invisible light gathered above the great hall of the Lingshao Celestial Court. The light flowed like water, turning into an invisible mirror that pierced through the dark origin sacred ground in the depths of billions of galaxies. Many experts hurriedly looked over and saw a pitch-black, ancient longsword appear in the depths of the dark origin sacred ground. It seemed to have been born from the darkness of billions of heavens. The dark battle sword. It was an acquired origin spiritual treasure born from the dark origin sacred ground. Many experts couldn't help but reveal a trace of passion in their eyes. At the same time, another terrifying pitch-black flame surrounded the dark battle sword. Amidst the blazing flames, a gigantic and beautiful three-legged bird hugged the dark sword as it slept. As it breathed in and out, it was as if there was a tide of darkness origin energy pouring into its body, blending with the dark sword and causing its majesty to increase with each passing day. It was like the ruler of billions of darkness. With a single breath, it could engulf the heavens and the earth, causing all things to fall. Chapter 1577. It was a golden crow, a huge three-legged golden crow. However, the three-legged golden crows that the experts had seen were usually golden in color. They emitted a terrifyingly high temperature that could burn everything. The three-legged golden crow in front of them was also elegant and majestic. However, its wings were pitch black, and its body was shrouded in shocking darkness. Ordinary golden crows were born from the light of the world. However, the huge black golden crow in front of them was born from the darkness. Dark golden crow. In the spirit sea god system, two beast emperors had pale faces. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. They were dazed. They were the two remaining ancient beast emperors of the golden crows. Many experts looked toward the voice. Seeing the two beast emperors' strange expressions, a goddess couldn't help but speak. Luji, what's the matter with the dark golden crow? Isn't the golden crows famous for their pure bloodline among the many races? She was the goddess of the endless ocean, the master of the sacred land of the water manor, the mother of all waters, Inji. Many experts' gazes fell upon this goddess, and they could not help but reveal a hint of adoration. There were many goddesses in the spirit sea god system, but very few were as beautiful as Inji the jellyfish. This goddess was currently shrouded in the hazy light of the water. She was dressed in a long white dress, and her bearing was unparalleled. It was difficult for others to see her true appearance, but just from the elegance and grace that she exuded, one could tell how devastatingly beautiful she was. Many experts nodded when they heard him speak. The golden crows were rumored to be born on the sun star. They were born from the true fire of the sun. Their bloodline was naturally domineering. No matter what their mother's race was, they would be born as the golden crows. Their bloodline would weaken, and they would become three-legged red crows, three-legged fire crows, and so on. They were definitely not like the other powerful ancient races, where their bloodlines were entangled. It was extremely difficult for them to mutate. I know that the golden crows once gave birth to two mutants. The most mysterious goddess of the night on the side said. Many experts were startled as they looked at the goddess of the night. This ancient god was born at the beginning of the world. She had always kept a low profile. She didn't have much of a presence in the various eras, be it the primordial age, the immemorial age, or the ancient age. If not for the unification of the spirit sea, perhaps the Evernight goddess would not have appeared. However, the knowledge of such an ancient god was definitely not something that ordinary experts of the younger generation could compare to. The Evernight goddess said, "One is the three-legged underworld crow, also known as the bird of death, the king of death." Three-legged underworld crow. Many powerhouses shifted their eyes and looked at the two Golden Crow clan demon royals who were silent. According to what many experts knew, the three-legged Golden Crow did indeed have the Nether Crow clan under its command. However, the majority of the demon clan had always thought that it was a mutated low-level death crow. But now it seemed like the outcome might not be so. It was probably a portion of the inherited bloodline left behind by the three-legged underworld crow. The Golden Crow clan had hidden themselves quite well. Many experts of different races had been fooled. Your Highness of Dark Night is wise. The two Golden Crow demon emperors looked at each other and smiled bitterly. A super-divine beast born from the laws of death and the netherworld? At this moment, the mountain gods and the underworld gods glanced at each other silently. They stared at the Golden Crows and gritted their teeth. This was another huge competitor. And he had hidden himself so well. On the chaotic world tree, Qin Feng remained calm. The Golden Crow clan had hidden themselves well, but they couldn't escape his eyes. Qin Feng smiled when he saw the expressions of many experts. Your Highness of Dark Night, other than the three-legged underworld crow, what is the other mutant? An expert couldn't help but ask. The Evernight goddess's alluring eyes curved slightly as she smiled mysteriously and charmingly. Her almond-shaped eyes were soft and bright as she looked around at the gods and said lightly, "As for the other mutant, let the two demon emperors talk about it in person. I won't be the bad guy. Haha, let's talk about the ancestor of the Khanate Dark Sun Golden Crow." The two Golden Crow demon emperors coughed dryly, clearly unwilling to talk about it. The existence of the Dark Sun Golden Crow has been prophesied in our clan since ancient times. It is said that this mutant is a rebel, and the Dark Sun Golden Crow clan and the Great Sun Golden Crow clan will fall. After some hesitation, the two demon emperors glanced at the Spirit Ocean Lord on the central throne. Our clan has issued an iron order that any Dark Sun Golden Crow born in any world must be killed. Rebel? The expressions of many experts in the heavenly court changed. Many of the experts present were the lords or ancestors of their clans. Every race would give birth to a rebel. Rebels didn't only refer to those mutants with heaven-defying talent. At the same time, they also referred to those that could cause the extinction of the clan or the downfall of the clan. Once such a rebel was born in any race, they wouldn't hesitate to get rid of it as soon as possible. However, it was undeniable that the mutants of every race were extremely powerful once they were born. Especially when each of them was a high-level son of great luck. It's a rebel? On the throne, Qin Feng's expression changed slightly. He had some guesses about Little Eight's origins, but he had always thought that this lustful and cunning little rascal was an extremely rare mutant of the Golden Crow clan. He hadn't expected it to be a rumored rebel of the Golden Crow clan. Seeing everyone's expressions, the two demon emperors of the Golden Crow clan looked at the central throne. Among them, Lu Ji probed, "Your Majesty, you seem to be very familiar with the Dark Sun Golden Crow." "Your Majesties, there is no need to ask. I can answer you on behalf of His Majesty. That little rascal was a very important old friend of His Majesty in his early years. You'd better not offend it. Otherwise, the Golden Crow clan will fall or face extinction in the future." A faint and pleasant female voice sounded, like the tinkling of spring water. The two demon emperors of the Golden Crow clan looked over. Among the gods of the Water clan, a tall and slim god of the sea walked out. She had thin eyebrows and was as gentle as water. Her steps were graceful and calm, as if she had walked out of a storm in the sea. She was noble and graceful, like an ancient goddess who controlled the boundless sea. Sea Demon Divine Emperor Lan Ro. Many experts' eyes flickered rapidly. There was no doubt that this goddess was exceptionally beautiful. Her purple color was not inferior to the goddess of the endless sea, Inji, and the goddess of the dark night. Many people knew the origin of this Sea Demon Divine Emperor. The Sea Demon Divine Emperor was the emperor of the Sea Demon clan. She had only recently appeared in the divine system. She was in charge of the water elemental world, which was a world of pure water yuan qi that was about to advance to the greater world. It was rumored that this Sea Demon Divine Emperor had an ambiguous relationship with the Lord of the Spirit Sea, which made many experts fearful of this goddess. Chapter 1578. The Siren clan wasn't the strongest among the 10,000 clans. At most, they were only average. However, their territory was enormous. The water elemental realm was one of the top great realms. It could ascend to the Greater Thousand Realm at any time and dominate a future Greater Thousand Realm. It was comparable to the top three races: the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, the Spirit Clan, the Kirin Clan, the Ice Clan, and the Black Tortoise Clan. How could the Siren Godly Emperor not tremble? The pressure was too great. In particular, the Sea Demon Clan was famous for their beauties. This was simply a huge cake for them to feast on. Although the Siren Clan was enjoying a good time, the Siren Godly Emperor knew how dangerous it was. However, she didn't have a real status like the other godly concubines. There was only one reason for her to stand up now. She wanted to prove that she had an intimate relationship with the Spirit Sea ruler. This was a gesture. This was very important. If possible, the Siren Godly Emperor wouldn't protect the Siren Clan's territory in this way. However, she had no other choice. The Siren Clan hadn't matured yet. The sorrow of the weak. When he took this step, the Siren Godly Emperor suddenly remembered the thousands of years when the Siren Clan hid in the Cloud Lake. They had to send out their clansmen to curry favor with the other clans in order to protect themselves. Because of this, she had to bear the pain of scheming against her daughters. However, the Siren Godly Emperor was a resilient person. Soon, her expression returned to normal and she was calm under the gazes of the experts. On the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng glanced at the Siren Godly Emperor. He might have seen through the Siren Godly Emperor's thoughts, but he didn't mention it after a glance. It was a tacit agreement. Many experts were secretly surprised when they saw this. Then the rumors outside were probably true. The Siren Godly Emperor secretly sighed in relief. In the void, the experts of the Spirit Sea Divine System learned the truth. Many experts had given up on the idea of fighting for the Darkness Origin Sacred Land. However, the dark experts of the 3000 Realm continued to rush forward. The experts of the Spirit Sea Divine System watched coldly as a group of people rushed to their deaths. Apart from a few experts who notified the experts of the factions closer to them, the rest allowed the Spirit Sea experts to head to the Darkness Origin Starfield. Your Majesty, I have a question, but I don't know if I should ask. At this moment, a slightly heavy voice sounded in the hall. The deities looked towards the source of the voice. He was a quasi-Greater Thousand World Realm expert with a very low sense of presence. His deity position was quite forward, as straight as a sword. There were many sword gods under his command. With just a glance, all the experts were filled with respect. The third sword ancestor, Duguxie. Oh, I should call him the master of the sword Tao, the king of billions of sword gods, or the master of 10,000 swords. The quasi-emperor, divine emperor, who had first followed the Spirit Sea Lord, was now at the pinnacle of the quasi-Greater Thousand World Realm and had even unified the Sword Tao lineage. He could be said to be the master of all the gods of the Sword Path. In the past few years, their influence had been so great that they had caught up with the Dragon race, the Phoenix race, and the Spirit race. Just say it. On the divine throne, Qin Feng looked indifferently at the king of sword gods. The Sword Tao lineage was considered his trusted lineage. Taking a deep breath, Duguxie looked at the Spirit Sea Lord on the divine throne. Your Majesty, I would like to ask if there will be more Origin Sacred Lands in this world apart from the Light and Darkness Origin Sacred Lands? As soon as Duguxie finished speaking, the entire Lingxiao Hall fell abruptly silent. Everyone's eyes lit up as they looked at the Spirit Sea Lord on the divine throne. Even the earthly sovereign, Wang Daoi, and the Phoenix ancestor also looked at the Spirit Sea Lord. On the divine throne, Qin Feng looked at Duguxie with a slightly surprised gaze. Duguxie's intuition was very sharp. Even the earthly sovereign, light origin sacred god, and the Phoenix ancestor, who were Greater Thousand World Realm experts, had not noticed this, but Duguxie had vaguely sensed it. Looking at the experts around him, Qin Feng pondered for a moment, then looked up and said, I didn't intend to tell you this. I wasn't planning on revealing this matter, but since you've asked first, there's no harm in telling you. There will indeed be Origin Sacred Lands appearing soon. There really are more Origin Sacred Lands. The experts were stunned, then looked at each other, finding a trace of shock and ecstasy in each other's eyes. Dugusier's eyes burned with passion. Your Majesty, how many more Origin Sacred Lands will be born? Will our Sword Dao Origin Sacred Lands be among them? Your Majesty, will our Water Origin Sacred Lands be among them? Your Majesty, will there be any Nature Origin Sacred Lands? Your Majesty, what about us? Will our Wind Origin Sacred Lands have a chance? What about our Fire Origin Sacred Lands? Many experts couldn't help but ask questions at the same time. The supreme quasi-world world realm experts and god emperors were like children in a school with a strong thirst for knowledge. All of them were red in the face, scratching their heads and feeling their hearts beat violently. They couldn't be blamed. Generally speaking, ordinary quasi-world world realm ancestor gods wanting to break through to the 16th world realm was almost like going through the gates of hell. It would be an exaggeration to say that it was almost certain death. However, it would be different if one could become the master of an Origin Sacred Land born in the Spirit Sea. The Origin Sacred Lands were born from the Spirit Sea's Origin Sacred Lands, and were almost equivalent to the descent of laws. Moreover, they would nurture Origin spiritual treasures accompanied by laws. Once one obtained an Origin Sacred Ground, the chances of breaking through would be greatly increased. If Qin Feng had not broken through to the 16th world realm, he would have fought with his life on the line for such great benefit. There's no need to rush. Qin Feng smiled faintly as he looked at the anxious expressions on the faces of the experts in the Great Hall. There's no fixed number of Origin Sacred Lands in this world. They will increase with the strength of the Spirit Sea and the growth of the Origin Sacred Lands. Qin Feng paused, then looked at the quasi-world world realm expert. At this stage, there should be 6 Origin Sacred Lands in the Spirit Sea. Currently, there are the Nether Origin Sacred Lands, Light Origin Sacred Lands, and Darkness Origin Sacred Lands. 3 more Origin Sacred Lands will be born one after another. 3 Origin Sacred Lands have already been born. The Underworld is also one of them? Many experts subconsciously looked at the earthly sovereign, Wang Daoi. Wang Daoi's expression did not change. He stood on the Nether Divine Throne and seemed to be surrounded by boundless power. It was as if he was standing in the depths of the boundless Spirit Sea. Wang Daoi had long known that the Underworld was a Nether Origin Sacred Land. As for which Origin Sacred Lands will be born in, it depends on the evolution of the Spirit Sea and the concentration of the Origin Sacred Lands of each branch. As for which Origin Sacred Lands will be born, Qin Feng shook his head. As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of many quasi-great world realm experts from major branches of Providence lit up. A smaller group of quasi-world world realm experts could only feel bitterness at the corner of their mouth. The heavens were unfair. Chapter 1579. Beneath the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng shook his head as he looked at the experts' gazes. It was indeed difficult for some minor branches to gather providence and give birth to an Origin Sacred Land. On the other hand, it was much easier for Sword Dao, Star Dao, and the 4 fundamental forces of earth, water, wind, and fire to gather providence. Everyone gathered firewood to create a fire. The birth of an Origin Sacred Land was both accidental and inevitable. There were also some unknown mysteries. Qin Feng fell into deep thought. Such Origin Sacred Lands were extremely rare. Logically speaking, he'd been to more than 1 or 2 of the upper realms of the 33 skies. However, none of those upper realms, not even the upper realms of the primeval universe, had ever given birth to an Origin Sacred Land. A group of experts sharpened their swords in the Great Hall, many of them pondering secret methods to strengthen their branch's providence. There were also some minor experts who gave up completely. On the throne, Qin Feng swept a glance over the experts, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. As the darkness origin sacred land's providence began to rise, the providence in the spirit sea began to increase. As the providence increased, the third strand of connate primordial purple qi began to merge with the primordial Tao lotus, and the connate laws it grasped also began to evolve toward the primordial laws. While many experts were paying attention to the darkness origin sacred land, outside the spirit sea, in the gray and misty chaos cloud corridor, many large and small worlds were surging towards the spirit sea along with the gray chaos. Although those worlds of various sizes were huge, in reality, they were like Sumera mesons. One flower, one world. They were like bubbles contained within the ocean-like chaotic chi. Another example was the shoals of sardines. Compared to the vast ocean, the chaos was undoubtedly larger, deeper, and murkier. There were even clouds of fog that covered the sky like a sponge. The spirit sea's periphery exuded an enormous suction force. Like a chaos beast that had just entered its adolescence, it greedily absorbed the chaos vital energy. At the same time, a group of sardines of various sizes rushed towards the spirit sea and entered it at an extremely fast speed. Rumble. Occasionally, some enormous chaos beasts would rush to the spirit sea, following their instincts. The enormous chaos beasts would crash into the crystal wall of the spirit sea and shatter it. Their blood would pour into the spirit sea, and the chaos true spirits would seize the opportunity to break down and enter the spirit sea. If they were lucky, they would be able to retain a portion of their chaos blood essence and be reborn in the spirit sea, becoming a native innate great god. If he was slightly unlucky, he would be able to conjure up a surge of innate essence chi with his true spirit, which would turn him into an innate deity king or even an innate deity emperor. Of course, there were also those who were unlucky enough to be devoured by the divine soldiers and generals of the Lingshao celestial court as soon as they entered the spirit sea, helping a certain innate god achieve his goal. Not only were there chaos worlds and chaos beasts, but there were also chaos embryos that had yet to be born. Chaos embryos were born from chaos laws. Once fully matured, they'd become chaos creatures, or connate spirit root. When these embryos fell into the spirit sea, most of them would absorb the spirit sea's origin energy, and if they were not interrupted, they'd give birth to the strongest chaos deity kings and chaos deity emperors. Or they'd turn into spirit treasures born from the 3,000 laws. These chaos embryos were the most precious of all. The reason why some of the Lingshao celestial court's experts were willing to stand guard at the boundary between the chaos and the outer perimeter was because of these chaos embryos. According to the experience of ordinary celestial systems, not long after the ascension of the upper realm, the worlds in the chaos would be summoned, chaos embryos, all kinds of treasures, chaos water and fire, chaos wind and lightning, chaos earth, and even the innate primordial purple chi. At the very least, there would be chaos stones, chaos jades, and the like. After ascending to the 17th level, Qin Feng began to consciously control the Star River, Fei Luan Crystal Wall, Nature Lands, and other places under his control to drift towards the Spirit Sea. At the same time, outside of the Spirit Sea, in a chaos cloud corridor tens of millions of miles away, two figures were looking at the Spirit Sea that was glowing brightly. If the worlds of various sizes were said to be schools of fish in the ocean, then the Spirit Sea and the 33 Heavens realms were like islands in the ocean that were exceptionally eye-catching. As for the subordinate Greater Thousand Worlds, they were the subordinate chain islands. However, the beauty of the world was undoubtedly much more beautiful than a simple chain of islands. What a beautiful world! I can't imagine how delightful it would be when it's completely destroyed. The Apocalypse Lord's voice was slightly hoarse and filled with a twisted sense of beauty. He looked in the direction of the Spirit Sea with a hint of infatuation. Unlike ordinary chaos races, The Western Dragon race belonged to the Chaos race of disaster and destruction. They worshipped disaster and destruction. The more worlds they brought disaster to, the greater the number of worlds they destroyed. The more fortune they obtained, the more power they would become, and the more powerful they would become. On the side, Pan Lin of the Chaos Noble race was expressionless, but there was a hint of gloominess in his heart. Unlike the Western Dragon race that was purely destructive, the Chaos Noble race was a neutral race. Although they didn't worship creation and construction, they also had a natural aversion to destruction. In the chaos, countless beautiful worlds had been destroyed by this group of chaotic and destructive fellows. However, compared to those terrifying races that were purely destructive and devouring, the actions of the Western Dragon race were still within the scope of Pan Lin's acceptance. How are the preparations? After a while, the Apocalypse Lord looked at the Chaos Noble race. Pan Lin's heart trembled as he hurriedly replied, "Your Majesty, all the Chaos fleets have been sent out. Basically, there are no major obstacles. The connection between the Spirit Sea and Divine Marshal has been established and is now approaching. It won't be long before these two huge upper realms collide with a bang." Speaking of this, Pan Lin had a smug look on his face. The Chaos Noble race could be said to be the most proficient in this kind of secret technique. "I hope I won't have to wait too long." The Apocalypse Lord glanced coldly at Pan Lin. Pan Lin's heart turned cold, but he still smiled. "Your Majesty Apocalypse, please don't worry. As the Spirit Sea devours more worlds of various sizes, the speed will increase." "Very good." The Apocalypse Lord's eyes flickered as he spoke. "This matter has been settled. We only have to wait for the right time. We have plenty of time. Next, you will explain the secret technique of the Chaos Noble race to me. I have always admired the secret technique of the Chaos Noble race." Under the gaze, Pan Lin's face stiffened. How could he say no? Chapter 1580. This was a secret technique of the primal Chaos aristocrat. This was a secret that was not passed on to outsiders. Other than the experts of the primal Chaos aristocrats, it was not passed on to outsiders. The humiliation in Pan Lin's heart could not be washed away. Pan Lin now regretted rashly stopping the Spirit Sea Lord. If not for that, he would not have ended up in the hands of the Apocalypse Lord, where he could not even die. I hope the experts of the clan can see some of the marks left behind and come early. This chaotic region is more remote and barren than I thought. In the chaos, the Origin Divine Realm, the Spirit Sea, the Shenwu Continent, the Eastern Barren Upper Realm, and the Emperor Shi Continent. Hundreds of huge Chaos fleets were heading towards this region. Chaos District 9 is the most barren region far away from the chaotic swirling sea. What's there to complain about? On a huge Chaos battleship in the middle, several majestic and imposing figures were conversing. One of the figures was hidden in a hazy fog. As soon as he finished speaking, he continued. "Moreover, it may be barren now, but it may not be barren in the future. This Chaos epoch, 129,600 minor epochs, is about to end. According to the law of the Chaos Sea's fate transfer, the next central area of the Chaos might be this barren District 9. Who can say for sure? I really envy the immortal universe. The universe is perfect and immortal. No matter where the fate transfers, it will be one of the central areas of the Chaos." One of the voices sounded envious. The other figures were silent, but there was no lack of envy in their eyes. The immortal universe was the legendary Void universe. It was perfect and contained perfect innate laws. Most importantly, it would not be affected by the flow of fate in the Chaos epoch. Unfortunately, there were only a few high-grade immortal universes, even in the central area of the Chaos Sea. Among the 10 major races of the Chaos, only the terrifying race that was ranked first had the chance to upgrade a high-grade universe to an immortal universe. There's no need to envy. The current plan is to find the whereabouts of the primal chaos aristocrat. According to the deduction of the elders, the primal chaos aristocrats might have found a target that is suspected to be the next place where fate converges. We can't let the primal chaos aristocrats get ahead of us, the previous expert said indifferently. He paused for a moment before continuing. Moreover, this time, it's not just our clan. The powerhouses of the Titan royal family have also sensed something and are rushing towards District 9. Titan royalty? Many experts looked at each other with solemn expressions. The Titan royal clan might not have an advantage in numbers, but they were extremely powerful individually. They were ranked in the top 3 of the top 10 Chaos clans, and they had far more sovereigns than some of the top 10 Chaos clans. Speed up. Let's finish investigating the area of District 9 as soon as possible and figure out the whereabouts and purpose of the nobles of Chaos. As soon as he finished speaking, many cultivators were stunned. The Chaos fleet began to speed up in the direction of the Origin Divine World. In the Sky Demon Great World. In the depths of Tiannan Volcano. At this moment, the 4 saint gods of the Phoenix clan had gathered. Ancient God Imperial Flame, Ancient God Paluo, Scarlet Flame Sacred God, and the 17th rank Scarlet Phoenix Master. According to the reaction of the Phoenix Ancient Mirror, another member of the Greater Thousand World Realm was born in the Spirit Sea. The Scarlet Phoenix Master's beautiful face flashed with a faint smile as she looked at Ancient God Imperial Flame, Ancient God Paluo, and Ancient God Scarlet Flame. She sat on the fire magma divine throne in the center. The giant golden parasol tree's fiery red branches and leaves swayed, sprinkling flames. Around her were bright red fire crystals that had cooled down. Luxurious, majestic, and majestic. Tell me your thoughts. Since a member of the Greater Thousand World Realm has been born in each major world, according to the tradition of the Phoenix clan, we naturally have to summon our clansmen back to our ancestral land to pay respects to our ancestors. Scarlet Flame Sacred God said with a frown. The Phoenix clan was not a small clan in the Chaos space, and they had their own rules. Any member of the Phoenix clan who had broken through to the Greater Thousand World Realm had the right to return to their clan and pay respects to their ancestor. Ancient God Imperial Flame shook his head slightly. I'm afraid it's very difficult. The Spirit Sea is now under the control of the primeval sacred god, and I'm afraid he won't let anyone go easily. Scarlet Flame Sacred God said after a moment of silence. The primeval sacred god has just offended the nobles of Chaos and the Western Dragon clan. He probably won't want to offend the Phoenix clan. Ancient God Imperial Flame and Ancient God Paluo looked at each other and smiled. The strength of the Phoenix clan was not something an ordinary god system could compare to. Like the Violet Jade Dragon Lord of the Dragon clan, the Phoenix clan had also produced an ancient existence at the 3rd step of the sacred god in the Chaos Space 9th Zone. This was not something a mere Spirit Sea god system could resist. There were many experts in the Chaos Space, and the major worlds were nothing more than remote villages or small islands in the eyes of the true Chaos Space races. Although the primeval sacred god was a genius and had reached level 17 at such a young age, he was not enough to intimidate the older factions in the Chaos Space where experts were as numerous as the clouds. On the Magma Divine throne, the Red Phoenix Master nodded slightly and said with an indifferent expression, "If that's the case, then send someone to the Spirit Sea God system and let them go." Above the Spirit Sea, the Chaos World Tree had expanded greatly. Its enormous branches blotted out the sky, and the various major worlds looked like countless mysterious branches and leaves on the Chaos World Tree. Its branches exuded a vigorous and powerful aura. Dense chaos essence swirled around it. It was much more powerful than the Chaos Origin Tree of the primeval era in the Spirit Sea. In the primordial era of the Spirit Sea, A powerful forefather had wielded the Chaos World Tree and used it to create an extremely talented divine race that dominated the myriad worlds and suppressed countless other races. However, even when the Chaos World Tree had descended in the primordial era, it hadn't been as majestic, tall, or vigorous as the one before them. One of the branches of this chaotic world tree had been injured, withered, and fell off. However, just a single piece of withered essence of life had attracted more than a dozen peerless divine emperors to fight it out. The one who'd obtained the branch had broken through to the great divine emperor realm in just a few hundred years. At the center of the primal chaos world tree's crown, Qin Feng sat on the divine throne with a strange look in his eyes. Strange phenomena appeared in the 3 flowers above his head. Countless purple clouds rolled. Qin Feng's divine sense was one with the primal chaos world tree. He could feel the growth of the primal chaos world tree. Ever since the birth of the darkness origin sacred land, the fusion between the overgod space and the spirit sea had finally reached its final stage. Today, he sensed an unprecedented change in the depths of his nascent spirit. Chapter 1581. Buzz Buzz. Silently, there seemed to be a torrential current that flowed into Qin Feng's body through the great Tao's 3 flowers the instant the spirit sea and the creator space merged. Rumble. At this moment, the gods in the Lingshao celestial court saw a layer of dazzling light erupt from Qin Feng's body as he sat on the divine throne under the Chaos World Tree. This was not the ordinary brilliance of the sun, treasure, or divine ability, but the materialization of the laws of heaven and earth. It was like a boundless sun. Normally, some of the experts who were stationed in the heavenly court's main hall would find it hard to open their eyes. Even several quasi-greater world realm experts felt a stinging pain in their eyes, not daring to open their eyes. Some of the gods even began to solidify their divine bodies under the brilliance of the laws, as if they were being petrified by the laws. All the experts were shocked. Buzz buzz buzz. An invisible collision occurred in the void, as if 2 pieces of iron were crazily squeezing each other. A power that could shake the myriad worlds surged. The final fusion of the creator space and spirit sea has begun. In the depths of the underworld, the earthly sovereign Wang Daoi and the sun star phoenix ancestor immediately discovered the source of the change. Complex expressions flickered in their eyes. Once the spirit sea completely dominated the last part of the spirit sea, they could not tell what they were feeling. Were they feeling a little more joy or a little more unwillingness? Immediately, fervent looks flashed across the 2 sacred gods' faces. Such a change was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Leave some people to guard the underworld. Everyone will take turns to go to the Lingshao celestial court to comprehend the laws. The sacred god of the earthly sovereign said indifferently. His figure directly appeared in the Lingshao celestial court, and a divine light appeared on his body to protect a large number of experts. The rich brilliance of the laws was endless to powerful beings, as it was equivalent to directly comprehending the laws. But to some weaker beings it was highly toxic. They could be transformed by the laws at any time and die. With the protection of the sacred god of the earthly sovereign, some of the experts who felt that their divine bodies could not be petrified immediately left the range of the brilliance of the laws. Under the cleansing of divine power, they slowly recovered their flesh and blood. However, many of the experts' faces were pale. It was obvious that the scene just now had frightened them greatly. Your Majesty Earthly Sovereign, Your Majesty Ancestor Phoenix, what is going on? A powerful God-Emperor looked at the Earthly Sovereign's holy god and the Phoenix Ancestor's holy god. This was a divine emperor of the Thunder sect. Just now, his true body was almost petrified. There's no need to ask. Comprehend it well. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of you. The Emperor of Earth glanced indifferently at the immortal Emperor who had spoken. His divine sense immediately sank into the rich and direct light. In the light, he seemed to see the collision and fusion of the two wills of the world. The innate law of life and death manifested around him, turning into a book of underworld manifested by the nine nether divine light. This kind of change? Dragon Emperor of the East Sea, Evernight Goddess, Inji, Wu Lei Emperor, Absolute Beginning Divine Lord, Sangqiong Crown Prince. Many experts of the heavenly court sensed the changes in the depths of the heavenly court through the divine thrones above the heavenly court. After instructing their subordinates to maintain order in the spirit sea, their true bodies hurriedly appeared above the Lingshao celestial court. Although most of his mind was filled with information about the fusion of the overgod space and spirit sea, Qin Feng still paid attention to the Lingshao celestial court's great hall. He saw many experts petrified by the law of life and death around him. He wanted to attack, but when he saw the earthly sovereign, the phoenix ancestor, and the others appear one after another, he immediately gave up on the idea. Instead, he wholeheartedly accepted the spirit sea's origin law after the fusion of the overgod space and spirit sea. His mind and body were empty, without joy or worry. His Tao heart was sparkling like a wuxia, and he threw away all distracting thoughts. He was like a sparkling and translucent crystal, greedily absorbing the benefits of the fusion of the overgod space and spirit sea. An extremely vast light wheel appeared behind his head. Within the light wheel, the vast illusory world seemed to be struck by a copious amount of origin power, and was rapidly solidifying. However, the spirit sea's wheel of heavenly Tao alone wasn't enough to digest the benefits. Bang! 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 Another origin rushed into Deshang's perfected born Tao aptitude. Qin Feng's born Tao aptitude started to change. The divine light around Qin Feng's body surged violently like wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. Kacha, kacha! Visible to the naked eye, the born Tao aptitude started to petrify. His born Tao aptitude couldn't withstand the feedback from the spirit sea's origin. Every inch of his flesh and bones were baptized by the origin and started to petrify. Even the 33-faced overgod Godhead connected to the 3 flowers of Tao in his body started to petrify like the sun after devouring a huge amount of origin. Qin Feng frowned. Although this petrification made his Tao aptitude stronger, it was actually going astray. Channeling the God force of laws in his body, he slowly refined the origin of the primal chaos God lattice inch by inch into his flesh, bones, and bones. Rumble! The God power in his body started to surge like a river in a flood. Qin Feng had to use a secret technique to compress the surging rule divine power. This compression caused his God power to turn into golden lightning divine fire on his flesh and skin. Lightning flashed and divine fire intertwined. Rumble! It was abnormally terrifying. A trace of God power could pierce through the heavens. However, the nourishment of the origin of the spirit sea was endless. His body changed back and forth between petrification and flesh and blood. Every time his body was restored to flesh and blood, his born Taoism aptitude became stronger. After a few times, Qin Feng's born Taoism aptitude began to show traces of lightning-like divine light of the Great Path. After a few times, it started to transform into a terrifying Great Tao divine ring. Extreme Tao aptitude. On the chaotic world tree, the pink-robed witch saw it clearly. A trace of envy could be seen in her eyes. The extreme Tao aptitude was one of the most powerful born Tao aptitudes in the chaos. It was extremely difficult to cultivate. This was a terrifying Tao aptitude that was beyond the realm of a perfected born Tao aptitude. It already contained a trace of immortal characteristics. She had seen many level 18 experts, but as far as she knew, only 1 or 2 had cultivated such an extreme Tao aptitude. Perhaps only by obtaining a complete upper realm of the 33 skies and receiving feedback from the origin would one have the opportunity to cultivate such a terrifying Tao aptitude. Experts who had cultivated such an extreme Tao aptitude would surpass their peers in all aspects, be it combat strength or other aspects. Qin Feng didn't know what an extreme Tao aptitude was. He only knew that he could turn the spirit sea into his own domain and his personal property. As the god of creation and the master of the spirit sea, the feedback he received was too great. He finally understood why those chaotic saint gods fought so hard for the spirit sea. Chapter 1582. The benefits were too great. Before, Qin Feng's strongest attribute had been his primordial spirit. His soul had been refined by the innate rules and was extremely powerful. But now, his physical body was rapidly catching up to his primordial spirit after being nourished by the origin of the spirit sea. His body was strong enough to crush ordinary experts of the same level. The strength of his soul and divine body wasn't as simple as 1 + 1. Moreover, the metamorphosis was still ongoing. It even seeped into the depths of his bloodline and affected many existences beneath it. The divine tree realm was a great world centered around the world tree of life. In the wilderness, an enormous silver moon loomed over the entire great world. The Silver Moon clan and the Nether God clan were the dominant clans here. With the help of the divine tree realm, the Silver Moon clan and the Nether God Giant clan had grown rapidly over the years. The Nether God Giant clan had the Spirit Sea Lord as their backer. They were the Spirit Sea Lord's trusted subordinates, so they had always been successful. The Silver Moon clan was different. Their foundation was the Silver Moon God Emperor of the Divine Tree Realm. Above the enormous silver moon, the fragrance of osmanthus flowers wafted through the air. Immortal palaces stood in great numbers. In the Guanghan Palace at the center, as Qin Feng's innate Tao aptitude transformed into an ultimate divine body, a graceful and cold figure immediately sensed the change. The Silver Moon God Emperor opened her eyes from her comprehension of the origin laws. There was a hint of surprise in her clear, watery eyes. She used her slender hand to caress her bulging belly. In an instant, she sensed that her child's vitality had increased by more than 10 times. There was also an extremely powerful origin within it. Mother! Vaguely, she seemed to hear 2 affectionate, tender, and joyful voices. For a moment, her beautiful eyes froze, as if she were dreaming. Gradually, a smile appeared on her beautiful face, and a thick, motherly radiance emerged from the corners of her eyes. The Earth Swamp Continent. In the newly built Cloud Lake City, Qin Feng's bloodline was once again reforged after his breakthrough. Countless terrifying auras erupted from the Qin clan in Cloud Lake City. Streaks of extremely powerful auras erupted like boundless thunderbolts. This is, in several secluded cultivation areas, Qin Qinyue, Qin Qinyun, Qin Qinhong, and the other elders of the Qin clan opened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with shock as they sensed the explosive increase in power in their bodies. There seemed to be endless potential in the depths of their bloodlines. Innate rule fragments flowed into their souls from their bloodlines, combining with their souls and condensing into an even more powerful origin ability. However, this sudden increase did not have any side effects. He only needed time to completely digest it and master the innate rules in his mind. Not only the land swamp continent, the Qin family led by Qin Gang in the Myriad Star Field, and the Qin family disciples led by Qin Shou in the northern spirit region all felt their bloodline boiling. Many god kings saw a terrifying figure at the source as their blood boiled. An endless stream of light poured into the bodies of the Qin family disciples through the source of their blood. The closer one's bloodline was to that terrifying figure, the more radiance one would receive. On the contrary, the thinner one's bloodline was, the less radiance one would receive. However, no matter how few of them there were, some of the Qin family's disciples with the most marginal bloodline had also become high-level innate gods. Most of them had become innate deity kings. There were even a few like Qin Gang, Qin Shou and the others who were originally the closest to Qin Feng's bloodline. They all became innate deity emperors. For a moment, the Qin family's disciples were all shocked. If there were any experts from the chaos space here, they would know that another origin celestial race was born. The origin celestial race was born strong. Almost all of them were born as high-level innate gods. Some of them were even born with the power of innate deity kings, or even innate deity emperors. Not to mention fairness and unfairness, this kind of unfairness existed in every world. For example, the Phoenix race, the Dragon race, and the Golden Crow race were all origin celestial races in the chaos space. However, the origin celestial races were born in every world. Due to the different rules of heaven and earth in every world, they would show different potentials and even evolve differently. Some of them would slowly weaken after generations of reproduction. Some of them would even have their bloodline mixed and eventually become weak like a chicken. Qin family's origin celestial race wasn't very strong, but the 10 great races in the chaos space all started from this step. With the origin celestial race's bloodline as the foundation, they could merge all kinds of skills and evolve the origin celestial race's unique bloodline. On the Chaos World Tree, although he was busy refining the origin celestial race, Qin Feng, as the source of the origin celestial race, saw the changes in the origin celestial race's bloodline clearly. The changes were beyond his expectations. Speaking from the bottom of his heart, he really didn't want to turn Qin family into an origin celestial race. Oh well, when the 2 children are born in the future, they'll need a family to protect them, Qin Feng thought. This way, evolving an origin celestial race wasn't a bad thing. He was multitasking. As he pondered, the 3 flowers of the great Tao above his head swayed. As more and more origins were refined, more and more fortunes were absorbed by him. The last strand of primordial violet qi above the 3rd flower of the great Tao was finally refined. Flowing light flowed, and the 3rd Tao flower turned into a pure primordial purple lotus. Vaguely, there were countless law fragments that Qin Feng sent into the primordial purple lotus. They were absorbed by the primordial purple lotus. This was the most crucial step to breaking through to rank 18. It was to accommodate billions of universe God laws and nurture one's own innate primordial law. This step was extremely difficult. Qin Feng sent the countless law fragments into the primordial purple lotus. They were melted by the primordial purple qi, and there was no movement at all. Qin Feng had already merged with the Spirit Sea and started to control the Spirit Sea completely. The countless law fragments in the Spirit Sea were under his control. So many law fragments were sent into the primordial purple lotus, but there wasn't even a single bubble. Even so, Qin Feng's expression didn't change. He had just completely controlled the Spirit Sea, and it was just the beginning. With the entire Spirit Sea as a foundation, Qin Feng believed that it wouldn't take long for the primordial Tao Lotus to truly start nurturing its own innate law. In a mysterious continent. This was a continent that belonged to the middle of the many outer planes of the Spirit Sea. This was one of the bases of the famous Resistance Army in the Spirit Sea. There were many experts from the Resistance Army gathered here. At the center of the continent, in the base, there were countless experts surrounding the area so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak through. In the middle of a hall, an altar appeared. The altar seemed to be made of bronze. It looked ordinary, but there was an extremely terrifying divine light contained within it. Young Master? Can this really break the seal of the Spirit Sea God system? Several towering figures looked at the slightly younger figure with a trace of anticipation, a trace of hope, and a trace of reverence and respect that came from the depths of their hearts. These figures gave off an aura that was as deep as the abyss, and there was a faint fluctuation of law fragments. These weren't ordinary experts. These were several quasi-greater 1,000-world realm experts. Chapter 1583. More than half of the core experts of the resistance were here. The young expert in the middle looked at the crowd and said calmly, "I'm of humble birth, and it's far from what everyone present here can compare to. When I first started cultivating, it was even tested that I didn't have the slightest aptitude for cultivation, and I was a genuine trash physique. If it wasn't for this altar, it would absolutely be impossible for me to walk to this step in 4,000 to 5,000 years and suppress everyone present here." Several quasi-world level experts heard this and greed flashed across their eyes. However, when the young expert looked at them, they suddenly felt a chill down their spines. They knew very well that this young man's strength was not comparable to ordinary quasi-world level experts. With that magical altar, even the Genesis primordial spirit of the past could not compare to 1/10 of this person's strength. They had personally experienced it. Hundreds of years ago, this person relied on that strange treasure and single-handedly killed his way into the nest of the resistance. At that time, the resistance did not only have a few quasi-world level experts, but also a lineup of powerful quasi-world level experts. However, they were suppressed by this person with a raise of his hand. The young man's figure was hidden in a thick glow, and no one could see his face clearly. There was a hint of regret in his eyes. If he had not sensed that the spirit sea had been completely controlled by that person, he would never have exposed the bronze altar so early. The bronze altar was his biggest trump card. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes, and he glanced at the quasi-world level experts present. However, these people had been planted by him, and he was not afraid that they would expose the existence of the bronze altar. The origin of the bronze altar was extremely mysterious. Even if it had been 4,000 to 5,000 years, the young man was not particularly clear about the grade of the treasure. It was just that this treasure was found by him from a stream when he was abnormally down and out. There were two main functions that he had found out. The first function was to trade with unequal value. He could sacrifice some worthless novelties to the altar in exchange for some extremely rare elixirs, spiritual roots, cultivation methods, and even godheads, spiritual treasures, and fragments of the precepts of heaven and earth. He could even trade for the highest position in heaven and earth, the position of the emperor, and the high and mighty position of the heavenly emperor. It was this ability that had allowed him to walk step by step from being a piece of trash without any cultivation aptitude in his family, from an extreme period of time to where he was today. The second function was to summon an alternate world. He had only discovered this function not long ago. No, he had already made use of this function. In the past, he had always been able to use this altar to travel through unknown worlds with his divine sense to train and collect treasures. As long as this altar existed, his spiritual consciousness would be able to enter those worlds and be reborn from death countless times. Originally, he had only been able to use his divine will to travel. Not long ago, he discovered that he could summon the real bodies of those worlds. The young man's mysterious eyes flickered with a hint of a sigh. He knew that if he wanted to progress further, he would have to fight the overlord of the spirit sea sooner or later. However, he always knew that he was weaker than the overlord of the spirit sea, and that he needed to grow in secret. One day, he would at least be able to stand on equal footing with that existence. Only then would he break through in one fell swoop and appear under the sunlight. He could even take over the entire spirit sea in one go. What a pity! The young man's eyes flickered. Now that the overlord of the spirit sea had merged with the spirit sea, he had no choice but to act. Once the overlord of the spirit sea completely took control of the spirit sea, his identity would be exposed sooner or later, and he would become a turtle in a jar. His eyes flickered with a hint of darkness. He took a deep breath, and his body returned to its original appearance. Is everyone ready? The quasi-greater world-level experts hurriedly nodded. One of the quasi-greater world-level experts waved his hand, and immediately, A dozen black-robed experts escorted dozens of experts forward. Their faces were numb, but their eyes were filled with terror. God-kings. These were all experts above the God-king level, and some of them were famous figures in the spirit sea. These God-kings all came from side sects or families of the spirit realm. I even have a few God-king experts under the spirit sea divine system. Many of the God-kings had their primordial spirits sealed, and their minds were unable to function. They were like dead objects. The God-kings were tied to stone pillars. Below the pillars, with the altar in the center as the center, formed an extremely complicated and ancient circular plaza. After all the God-kings were bound, the God-kings were bound. One of the quasi-golden world-level experts glanced at the young man on the high platform. The young man waved his hand slightly. Seeing this, the quasi-golden world-level expert nodded immediately. In the next moment, streaks of blood-red light shot out from the stone pillars that helped the God-kings. The blood-red light was accompanied by the wails of the unwilling souls as they rushed in all directions, trying to escape. On the altar, the young man looked at this scene calmly, as if he was already used to it. Under the stone pillars, countless streaks of light flowed out, turning into raging waves, and in the blink of an eye, the God-king's souls and blood essence were sucked dry. After the dozens of God-kings were sucked dry, countless streaks of light flowed out from the stone pillars, like mercury flowing into the complicated runes below the stone pillars, and like flowing blood, it extended to the bronze altar in the blink of an eye. The entire bronze altar suddenly shone with a hazy light. Within the light, one could vaguely feel a connection with a certain world. The young man's eyes were slightly solemn. The bronze altar could summon one world at a time, but the size was random. Moreover, according to the size of the world summoned, the cooldown time would be different. If it was just an ordinary small world, the cooldown time would be about 1 or 2 years. If it was a large world, the cooldown time would be more than 10 years. If it was a greater world, the cooldown time would be more than 30 years. If it was a 33 skies upper world, the cooldown time would be even longer, and the next summoning would take at least 100 years. What the mysterious powerhouse hoped for was to summon a huge 33 heavens upper realm this time. A new 33 heavens upper realm would be integrated into the spirit sea. At the very least, it would be able to delay that person's control of the spirit sea for thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. It would be wonderful if there were holy god powerhouses from the 16th or 17th order great thousand worlds in the 33 upper realms that had been summoned. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Chapter 1584. Several quasi-world-level experts from the Resistance looked on. Bronze light swirled above the bronze altar. One could see billions of stars in the hazy light. In a huge world, a stream of light fell like a ripe melon and quietly broke away from the influence of the huge world. In the dark and deep sky, a shooting star with a long blazing white tail tore through the night sky. It was a world that had been summoned by the bronze altar. With the mighty power of the bronze altar that had broken through billions of primordial chaos, almost instantly, a stream of light wrapped around an undercurrent in the depths of the primordial chaos ocean and entered the spirit sea without a sound. It's here. It's here. A look of anticipation flashed across the eyes of the quasi-world-level powerhouses of the Resistance, as well as that mysterious young man. The young expert closed his eyes slightly. However, it was only a moment before the young expert opened his eyes. A trace of disappointment flashed across his eyes. A greater world has merged into the spirit sea. On the chaotic world tree, Qin Feng suddenly opened his eyes. Divine lightning roared all over his body and his eyes flickered with a strange light. During this period, many worlds of various sizes had merged into the spirit sea. However, there was only one greater world. The merging of a greater world was very sudden. Qin Feng felt a little strange. He looked over and saw that it was a huge greater world. The greater world was wild and barren, and there were also countless living creatures living in it. The experts in the greater world were not very strong. Qin Feng even sensed that there was not a single true god aura. However, this world that has suddenly merged into me is very familiar. Qin Feng sensed slightly. Part of the situation in the greater world could not escape his eyes. He had once obtained a part of the memory from a transmigrator in the divine tree realm. The greater world was a world in the transmigrator's memory. As for why those mythical and legendary worlds would appear and materialize, there were too many miracles in the primordial chaos ocean. Nothing was impossible. It was a world with the power system of the immortal Tao. With the appearance of this greater world, Qin Feng could feel that the budding immortal Tao nomological laws in the spirit sea had greatly improved. Moreover, countless immortal Tao precepts rushed toward the great wide world and rapidly integrated into it, causing the immortal Qi in the great wide world to become even denser. A portion of the cultivators of the immortal Tao precepts improved greatly in strength. At this moment, in the spirit sea, some of the God system experts who cultivated the immortal path immediately sensed the arrival of the great thousand world on the side of the immortal path. The faintly discernible attraction made many experts on the side of the immortal path feel as if they had found the legendary immortal world. In the Tsangqiong Crown Prince's residence, the Tsangqiong Crown Prince emerged from his seclusion. His entire body was brimming with dense clear light. Ethereal immortal Qi filled the air, making him look like a supreme being of the immortal Tao. The moment the great wide world charged into the spirit sea, the convergence of the celestial Tao laws startled him, the person with the highest attainment in the celestial Tao. He was also the only expert in the spirit sea who had reached the level of a quasi-upper-class world with the power of the immortal Tao. The immortal realm has been born. He opened his eyes, and a trace of surprise flashed through them. His figure flashed, and he disappeared from the place where he had been cultivating in seclusion. His figure reappeared above countless plains. The great thousand world that had just appeared exuded a dense radiance of the immortal path. It was incompatible with the many planes around it. The immortal realm. The Tsangqiong Crown Prince's eyes lit up. In the void, the immortal path providence in the spirit sea poured into the great thousand world. While refining the new great thousand world, it vaguely made the great thousand world even larger. Some of the immortal Tao laws even infected some of the planes around it, turning them into natural subsidiary worlds of the great thousand world. In the future, this great thousand world would very likely become the center of the immortal path in the spirit sea. The immortal path has finally sprouted. The Tsangqiong Crown Prince's eyes trembled, showing the excitement in his heart. In the spirit sea, all those who cultivated the immortal path revered his father, the Dragon Ocean Sovereign, as the ancestor of the immortal path and the master of all immortals. However, as the only quasi-world-level expert on the immortal path side, if he could obtain this great thousand world, he would definitely become an immortal sovereign and control the immortal path. With the support of the immortal path providence, there was no doubt that his chances of becoming a sacred god would greatly increase. A great thousand world born from the immortal path's laws. The center of the immortal path. In the sky court, the sacred god Phoenix Ancestor and the sacred god Earthly Sovereign immediately sensed the changes. The two sacred gods looked at each other, and they could see the sigh in each other's eyes. With the birth of this great thousand world, the new immortal path's laws would definitely be able to gain a firm foothold and slowly grow stronger. Sooner or later, a sacred god of the immortal path would be born. We're so lucky. Some of the pre-heaven gods who were above the god spirit level and practiced immortal Tao were overjoyed. They stopped what they were doing, or emerged from secluded meditation, and headed toward the kiliacosm of worlds they were in. It looks like we demon gods should start planning as soon as possible and establish our own sacred ground of the demonic path. The firmament demon emperor murmured to himself in the depths of the demon realm. In the depths of the resistance, many quasi-world level experts and the mysterious young expert looked darkly at the group of connate gods who'd arrived from the periphery of the Great Thousand World. Damn it! The quasi-world level experts gnashed their teeth in anger. They'd gone to great lengths to summon a Great Thousand World, but instead of creating an opportunity for them, the Spirit Sea Divine Branch had taken advantage of it. The quasi-world level experts' faces darkened when they recalled that the Great Thousand World they'd spent so much effort to summon had been taken advantage of by someone else. The mysterious young expert didn't look too good either. He glanced coldly at the experts who'd gathered around the Great Thousand World. Spirit Sea Divine Branch, one day I'll take everything back from you with interest. Atop the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng was deep in thought. With the integration of a new Great Thousand World, Qin Feng found that his control over the Spirit Sea was once again blank. He'd seen through the actions of some of the connate gods, but didn't pay them any heed. Instead, he began to mobilize the power of the inescapable net to refine and cleanse the Great Thousand World. The refinement wouldn't take long. The Spirit Sea's origin was enormous. The newly arrived Great Thousand World would soon be completely refined and assimilated into the Spirit Sea. He could feel that with this refinement, more fate was flowing into the three flowers of the Great Path above his head. The fourth strand of primordial purple chi began to merge into the three flowers of the Great Path. His strength was improving bit by bit. Two divine domains opened around him. Purple chi was hazy, and countless law fragments poured in. The third primordial law of primordial purple chi showed signs of budding. Chapter 1585. This kind of change became more obvious as Qin Feng's mastery of the Spirit Sea increased. However, Qin Feng still had some doubts about the new immortal Tao realm. It didn't seem like the new immortal Tao realm had been born by the chaos alone. Judging from its cultivation system, it seemed more like a subsidiary immortal Tao realm. So the question was, how could such a subsidiary immortal Tao realm leave the immortal Tao realm and come to the Spirit Sea? It was a funny question. It was as if a subsidiary immortal Tao realm had suddenly run away. Would the Spirit Sea let it go? The answer was obviously no. On the throne of the Chaos World Tree, Qin Feng divided his mind into two. One part received feedback from the Spirit Sea's origin and nurtured its own connate rules. The other part merged with the first of the three flowers of Tao, the 18th rank gray lotus on the Tao lotus, which represented the connate rules of creation, spun and merged with the gradually perfected Dharma body. With a flash of light, a gray figure flew out of the Tao lotus. His face was the same as Qin Feng's. He was tall and slender, with a straight back and long hair like a waterfall. His aura was like that of a fiend god, but there were some subtle differences. Qin Feng's aura was tolerant, gentle, and contained a hint of indifference, alienation, and self-restraint. The gray-robed figure, on the other hand, had an extremely cold aura. His eyes were like the lofty heavenly Tao that looked down on all living things. This was the three-flower incarnation, the signature ability of a 17th-level expert. The three flowers of Tao combined with a connate rule to create a three-flower incarnation. However, the three-flower incarnation usually needed a supreme treasure to take form. The connate creation incarnation relied on the 18th rank lotus throne of creation. As soon as he took form, he had the strength of a peak 17th level expert. True form. The creation incarnation looked at the Spirit Sea Lord on the throne. Qin Feng looked at the incarnation. It had merged with the Dharma body and the 18th rank lotus throne of creation. The Dharma body's wheel of the heavenly Tao in the Spirit Sea hadn't reached its peak yet and still had a lot of room for growth. You are the 3 flowers incarnation of my 3 flowers incarnation. You have fused with the heavenly Tao Dharma body and the 18-grade lotus seat of fate. You are the innate master of the innate rules of creation and the heavenly Tao of the spirit sea. From now on, you are Taoist Ling Hai. As soon as Qin Feng's voice fell, the innate creation incarnation's body completely solidified. Taoist Ling Hai greets you, Hegemon. Taoist Ling Hai smiled. Qin Feng nodded to himself. To a certain extent, Taoist Ling Hai already possessed complete and independent intelligence. In the words of Tao sect, he was Qin Feng's 3 corpses incarnation. Since you've already materialized, you can make a trip there. Alright, Hegemon, I'm going. Taoist Ling Hai cupped his hands towards the throne. His figure flashed, and he disappeared silently from the Lingshao Hall. Qin Feng nodded. After slaying Taoist Ling Hai's 3 flowers incarnation, his mind seemed to have become even clearer, and his cultivation improved further. Most importantly, Qin Feng realized that with Taoist Ling Hai's departure, there seemed to be less of a disturbance in the nurturing of the innate rules, and the speed of its growth sped up. After leaving the Lingshao celestial court, Taoist Ling Hai headed straight for the immortal Tao realm. From afar, he could see many connate gods sitting cross-legged outside the immortal Tao realm. Immortal light sprinkled across the void, and some of them had even moved their own grotto heavens and blessed lands, or even immortal kingdoms, to the immortal Tao realm. These immortal Tao powerhouses were very bold. If it had been any other faction in the ununified upper realm, such a move would have made it easy for their enemies to lock onto their immortal kingdoms and strike them down. But now, the Spirit Sea divine system was almost a force to be reckoned with throughout the Spirit Sea. Even some powerhouse factions that didn't belong to the Spirit Sea divine system wouldn't dare attack their divine kingdoms, immortal kingdoms, or Buddhist kingdoms for no reason. At the moment, the immortal Tao realm hadn't been completely refined by Ling Hai, and the many immortal kingdom powerhouses couldn't descend with their true bodies. Many of them had moved their immortal kingdoms outside of the immortal Tao realm to make it easier for them to descend with their consciousness clones. Taoist Ling Hai, on the other hand, didn't have such taboos. With a flash of his figure, he ignored the rejection of the immortal Tao realm and entered it. Taoist Ling Hai's true body descended without a sound, his gaze looking into the distance and his consciousness sweeping out. Ancient forests and wilderness appeared as far as the eye could see. Immortal Qi was hidden in the void. Originally, the world's spirit Qi should have been average, and most of it was acquired. But after falling into the Spirit Sea and being refined, great amounts of connate spirit Qi emerged. Taoist Ling Hai glanced around, then vanished into the wilderness beneath his feet. A few days later, he appeared in front of a small town. His figure was like a streak of light. Ordinary living beings, even those who were successful in their cultivation, couldn't see his true body. His gaze was fixed ahead. That was the famous Mount Qinyun of the immortal Tao realm. It was also the location of the Mount Qinyun sect, the leader of the orthodox sects of the orthodox sects. It stretched for hundreds of miles, with undulating peaks and white clouds surrounding the mountainside. From afar, one couldn't see the true appearance of the peak. Taoist Ling Hai's gaze flickered. After a few days of understanding, he also had a partial understanding of the immortal Tao realm. There were some cultivators in the immortal Tao realm who understood the destiny of the heavens and earth. Even though they were mortals, they wielded immense power, borrowing the power of various secret treasures and magic items to shock the heavens and earth, and the power of lightning. Some of the more advanced cultivators were rumored to have lived for thousands of years without dying. However, there were almost none who cultivated the immortal Tao. This was a greater immortal Tao realm whose high-level legacies were almost cut off. However, it was vast and had the potential to become an immortal world. The divine lands was vast and boundless. The Central Plains was rich and fertile. 80 to 90% of the world's population lived here. The barren lands of the east, south, west, and north were filled with dangerous mountains and rivers. There were many ferocious beasts, poisonous creatures, and barbarians who ate their fur and drank blood. Since ancient times, there were remnants of the primordial age who lived in the barren land. They hid in the deep mountains and valleys, and lived for more than 10,000 years. Although the high-level legacies of the immortal Tao realm had been cut off. However, cultivators in the immortal Tao realm were as numerous as the carps in the river. Especially in the vast divine lands, there were many extraordinary cultivators in the world. They were either sold to the royal family or were honored guests of the wealthy marquises. There were many different methods of cultivation, and they were all different. However, the method of immortality had yet to be found. Therefore, whenever there were powerful spells, flying swords, and treasures that could prolong one's life appeared in the heavens and earth, there would always be a bloodbath. The plot of the world of celestial slayers had already entered the later stages. With just a little calculation, Taoist Ling Hai knew that Zhang Xiaofan had already betrayed the Green Cloud sect. Furthermore, when Bai Yao used the curse of infatuation to block the immortal slaying sword for Zhang Xiaofan, her soul was destroyed by the immortal slaying sword. Only a part of her soul was left. In the past 10 years, to save Bai Yao and bring her soul back to life, Zhang Xiaofan changed his name to Ghostly and carried the burden of countless killings. He was unscrupulous. However, the world of celestial slayers now was a little different from the world of celestial slayers that was influenced by Taoist Ling Hai. Outside the world of celestial slayers, many powerful cultivators of the celestial kingdoms descended and began to talk about the immortal Tao transcendence mantras. The familiar plot was already riddled with holes. Many talented cultivators from both the righteous and evil sects were taken in as disciples by the powerful cultivators of the celestial way. Their powers increased tremendously. Zhang Xiaofan, the son of destiny of Buddhism, Taoism, and satanic cultivation, was not having an easy time. In the greater world, there seems to be a celestial emperor. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.